Chapter 124. Fiery Bird's Yangju branch press conference was aimed at the entire Yangju market. The invited media were all large media outlets in Yangju. Some small and medium-sized media outlets did not have the qualifications to be invited and could only wait outside the door, hoping that if they could not get first-hand news, they would at least get some news from the sidelines. Unfortunately, they could only capture the silhouettes of some flying vehicles. Fiery Bird's Yangju branch was located in the heart of Qian City, not too far from the Silver Wing Tower. However, to express their respect for Fiery Bird and to display their worth, the company had specially arranged for a limousine with a picture of polar lights and the Silver Wing logo on the outside. When Fang Zhao arrived at the office on the day of the press conference, he and the others from his department took a car arranged by the company. So many people. There were cameras installed on the outside of the car. The people inside the car could see their surroundings through the images captured by the cameras. Outside Fiery Bird's Yangju branch, besides the media that had not been able to enter, there were also fans. These fans were wearing uniforms that had the logo of their respective esports clubs, as well as the serial numbers of certain members of the clubs, such as letters or numbers. There were also some that had their full names printed on them. Kuzimo's loss in the practice match 2 days ago did not affect his popularity. Every time they saw an esports club's car drive over, the fans standing below would cheer wildly. When Fang Zhao and the others arrived, the Transcendent Esports Club members just happened to arrive. Below, the Transcendent Esports Club fans screamed and roared. When they saw someone open a car window and stick his head out to wave, their cheers became even more agitated. Regardless of which club they were from, they were all Fiery Bird fans. Fiery Bird was the biggest winner. Fang Zhao saw the constantly changing images on the exterior walls of Fiery Bird's Yangju branch. There were images of polar light endorsements, photos of other esports clubs, and some promotional videos. Fang Zhao led his department into the building. A staff member told them that the press conference was being held in the venue upstairs, but it had not started yet, so they could take a look around. There were quite a few people walking around the hall on the first floor. The furnishings were filled with the cool combination of technology and games. There were holographic projections and real objects displayed in different areas. There were game consoles from the 1st to the 10th generation, games that had been made before, and the heavy machine that had been popular for the past 2 days, T-Rex. Fiery Bird was indeed the biggest winner this time. They had the attention, the clicks, and the merchandise had been released in advance. 2 days ago, during the practice match, the heavy machine T-Rex had appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Now, the actual model was out. In this press conference, the model of the heavy machine Tyrannosaurus was also one of the promotional items. The T-Rex models were divided into 2 main categories. The 2S and Boom models were the same model used in the practice match, the racetrack version, and the standard model, the street version. The 2 models went on sale at the same time. The racetrack version used in the practice race had a completely sealed bottom. The headlights and reflectors had been removed, and the tires had been changed. There were also other inconspicuous parts, such as the chain, handlebars, exhaust pipes, and gears. Compared to the standard version, there were changes. This was also where Fiery Bird was being rigorous. The main objective of the track version was the practice match from 2 days ago, and the changes were made with reference to the old era's racing competitions. Just by looking at these models, Fiery Bird knew that the competition 2 days ago had not only promoted the game, but had also promoted its products. In the map of the practice match, a lot of distracting factors were removed. People, objects, and other factors that could interfere with the game were removed. Speed and viewing were the most important. That was why there were no rubbish, pedestrians, or vehicles on the smooth streets except for some obvious obstacles. But in a place other than a professional competition, such as a normal street, or when the game had officially started, the standard street version would be used. The racetrack and street versions looked no different from afar, but upon closer inspection, there were obvious differences. The racetrack version was more like a ferocious beast ready to hunt at any time. It was sharper, while the street version looked more approachable. Gamers too young to log into Battle of the Century? Not even able to log into the practice platform? No problem. There were models. Fiery Bird had never given up on young gamers. These models came in all sizes and sizes, with prices ranging from 1,000 to 20,000, depending on the size and configuration. They were all made of alloy and could be driven through a personal terminal. The biggest difference from in-game models was probably the energy source. These models did not use gasoline, but rechargeable. With cleaner and more convenient energy sources, why would they still use those from the old era? It was fine for a small number of people to play because of their profession, but they still had to file an application. Normal people did not need to participate, as they would be fined for polluting the environment. Fang Zhao let the rest of the department view the models as they pleased. He walked along the display platform to see what other Fiery Bird products had. Up ahead, there were people from esports clubs arguing. It was not really an argument. It was just old rivals bickering and poking at each other's sore spots. When the official game starts, it won't be that simple. Don't tell me you want to drive a car into the air in the official game. What we see on TV is special effects, but in the game, it's a simulation of reality. When the time comes, the ground will be full of obstacles. Those from the practice competition will not be able to do it. If anyone can drive like that in the official game, I will acknowledge him as my father. Fang Zhao's footsteps paused slightly and he looked over. Looking at the insignias of the people gathered there, they were from 2S and Big Dipper esports clubs. Kuzimo was also there. He did not know what the Big Dipper people had said, but Kuzimo's expression was terrible. The words that had just been said by a member of 2S. Seeing Fang Zhao look at them, Kuzimo, who had a belly full of pent-up anger and nowhere to vent, turned to Fang Zhao and said, "What are you looking at?" The others also looked at Fang Zhao, who had walked over. Mr. Fang. Big Dipper Esports Club's captain, Yi Yuan, recognized Fang Zhao and introduced him to the rest of the team. Silver Wings Polar Light Project's producer, composer, and rising star of the music industry. I know him. We have bought quite a number of Polar Light endorsements. Which Muzhou brand is it? For elephants. Right. That brand is not bad. We are all using it now. Mr. Fang, where is your curly-haired dog worth 100 million? A member of Big Dipper asked. They had discussed Fang Zhao in the team before, so they knew a little about Fang Zhao's situation. Hearing the Big Dipper member say this, the 2S team also connected the dots. Oh, that dog worth 100 million is his? 2SS deputy captain, Abu, exclaimed. However, Fang Zhao was not someone from the esports circles, so they did not know much about news outside of esports. Big Dipper's captain, Yi Yuan, seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Kuzimo and smiled. Mr. Fang has the same name as a famous Yangzhou leader during the period of destruction. Marta Fang Zhao is my idol, so I have a rather deep impression of Mr. Fang. Kuzimo had been talking about the leaders during the period of destruction and had even used the Marta Fang Zhao as an example. Everyone knew about this. Fang Zhao looked at Kuzimo on 2SS side. Just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. If you can't do it, that doesn't mean others can't. Even if you have doubts, you should at least have some basic respect for martyrs. Take note next time. Kuzimo sneered. Who do you think you are? Having the same name as a martyr, do you really think you are a leader? After all, there were only these few people here. There were no other media outlets, and Fang Zhao did not belong to the same circles as them, so Kuzimo did not think much of Fang Zhao. Kuzimo. As the captain, Xie chided. He turned his head and gave Fang Zhao an apologetic smile. Of course we respect martyrs. They could not bear the crime of disrespecting martyrs, but they only respected the martyrs. As for others, they did not have the right. Xie looked at Fang Zhao and smiled courteously. I heard that Fiery Bird might cancel endorsements for virtual idols in the future. I hope I can still see Mr. Fang here when the time comes. No problem, just swipe my card. Fang Zhao fished out a Fiery Bird Gold VIP card. This card had been sent along with the invitation letter the day before yesterday. Usually, unless Fiery Bird took the initiative to recall it, this card would remain valid. The cardholder could enter the Yangzhou branch building at any time. Even without his producer status, Fang Zhao could still enter the building. His face stiffened, but he quickly recovered and asked, Mr. Fang also plays Fiery Bird games? Yes, I haven't played for long. The mouths of the people from 2S and Big Dipper twitched, and the same word popped up in their minds, rookie. Hasn't played for long. If he isn't a rookie, what is he? May I know what model Mr. Fang uses? He asked. The 10th generation fantasy, Fang Zhao replied. Zimo. Even I only use the upgraded version of the 9th generation. The envious gazes from all around were unconcealed. You actually used the 10th generation? Can you even use it? The members of 2S and Big Dipper had pained looks on their faces. As the 10th generation was limited, only the team leader used the 10th generation. Everyone else used the upgraded version of the 9th generation. What a waste. What a waste. The 10th generation was actually used by this sort of amateur. No wonder. Fiery Bird has sent out gold VIP cards for those using the 10th generation, he said. However, this was not his main point. I wonder if Mr. Fang has any intentions of selling the 10th generation? Actually, Mr. Fang, you are new to gaming, so there is no need to use the 10th generation. Battle of the Century is a game that can be used by all 6 generations and above. On the contrary, using the 10th generation will cause a lot of discomfort. The people from Big Dipper also looked at Fang Zhao. If Fang Zhao was willing to sell, they also wanted to fight for it. As a professional esports player, he always preferred to use the latest model. Not selling. I enjoy using it, Fang Zhao said. The price can be discussed. I don't lack money. Thinking about how the other party's dog was worth 100 million, he really could not use money to change Fang Zhao's mind. As for what Fang Zhao said about enjoying using it, he did not believe it. Looking at the time, Fang Zhao did not say anything more. He had to gather the others in the department. The press conference was about to begin. After Fang Zhao left, Zimo laughed sinisterly. Say, when the time comes, if we kill him until he doesn't dare log in, will he stop playing? The others were pensive. Chapter 125. Fang Zhao had not heard what Zimo had said, but he could guess. After living in the apocalypse for so many years, Fang Zhao could roughly guess what Zimo was thinking with just a few words and a few glances. When Fang Zhao had mentioned the 10th generation, Zimo had looked at him with a gaze, and Fang Zhao knew what the kid was thinking. Fang Zhao had not paid much attention to Zimo's tone. He would just take it that Zimo was young and insensible, but if he continued to be insensible in-game, Fang Zhao did not mind dealing a heavy blow to let this kid know how to respect his elders. After gathering Zhu Wen and the others, Fang Zhao prepared to enter the venue. Mr. Fang, please wait. Fang Zhao, who was about to lead the team into the venue, turned his head. It was Zachary, the engineer in charge of installing the machine. There was another person he did not recognize. This person was slightly younger than Zachary and looked gentler, but he had the aura of a leader. Fang Zhao looked at the insignia on his chest. In terms of rank, he belonged to the upper management of Fiery Bird's Yangzhou branch. This is our Yangzhou branch's chief engineer, Xavier. He has some matters to discuss with Mr. Fang, Zachary introduced. Seeing the people from the Polar Light Project team behind Fang Zhao, Zachary got someone to bring them into the venue and then invited Fang Zhao to a small lounge next door for a chat. Mr. Fang should be using the 10th generation rather well, Xavier said. Not bad. Just spit it out. Fang Zhao did not think that the two of them had called him over just to ask him how to use the machine. Xavier smiled and asked, the practice match the day before yesterday. That person was you. Fang Zhao looked up at Xavier and Zachary. Didn't you guys find out? Cough, just a guess. Meeting Fang Zhao's gaze, Zachary swallowed the excuse he had prepared and said helplessly, we did check, but we will not divulge the privacy of our customers. It is absolutely confidential. No one will say a word. Xavier also guaranteed, in terms of confidentiality, Fiery Bird has always done a good job. People from the Big Five have asked us, and those who know about this matter have not divulged a single word. Mr. Fang, you should know that the 10th generation will transmit a portion of data to us. It is written in the contract. Fang Zhao nodded. He knew about this. When the machine had been installed, Zachary had told him about it, and he had agreed. Because the 10th generation mech was a new model, it was a big project that Fiery Bird placed great importance on. Right now, it was only being sold in limited quantities. They needed to monitor some data to make improvements to the 10th generation mech, but the data only covered certain aspects. Every item was clearly listed. One of the items was the overall adaptability of the mech. Back then, when Zachary had helped Fang Zhao install the mech, he had explained to Fang Zhao that it was not only Fang Zhao. Every other user of the 10th generation mech in Yangzhou was in the same situation. Of course, this was also a responsibility to the user. If there was any abnormality, even before the user could detect it, Zachary would be able to receive a warning and respond promptly. On the day of the practice match, the adaptability value of the 10th gen model that Mr. Fang was using had already exceeded 95 and stopped at 96. Xavier sized Fang Zhao up again. In the entire Yangzhou, Mr. Fang is the only person who has exceeded 95. This value had caused Zachary to be extremely astonished. He did not even know if there was a problem with the data or if the mech had really reached such an adaptability value. Thus, he followed the data and checked Fang Zhao's login situation. Fang Zhao's login and logoff were synchronized with the mystery person during the practice match. A new user registered on September 1st was a premium VIP the moment he registered, and the data was synchronized. That could only be Fang Zhao. After discovering this, Zachary had informed his superior, Xavier, and Xavier had authorized to check the ID. After checking, it was indeed Fang Zhao. Zachary felt that this was simply inconceivable. There were only 8 people in Yangzhou using the 10th generation, and among them, 5 were from the big 5 esports clubs. 5 captain-level people were using it, and the 5 captains were indeed outstanding. The first time they had used it, their adaptability value had been above 90, but now, it was still in the 91 to 95 range. However, during the practice match, Fang Zhao's adaptability value had risen all the way to 96. This could also be considered an explanation as to why they had checked Fang Zhao's ID. Fang Zhao nodded his head, expressing his understanding. "Thank you for your understanding. We will keep this a secret. They won't know." Zachary understood very well that revealing this matter at this time was simply digging a hole for Fang Zhao. Those commercial esports clubs all banded together. The day before yesterday, Fang Zhao had stepped on 2S and Boom. If 2S and Boom wanted revenge, when the game officially launched, Fang Zhao might be surrounded by those crafty esports clubs first. It would not be easy to act openly, but they might do something behind the scenes. Which of the big 5 esports clubs did not have their own methods? "It doesn't matter if they know," Fang Zhao said. Xavier and Zachary only laughed when they heard this. They would just treat it as Fang Zhao being young and saying these words out of anger. Fang Zhao really was not saying these words out of anger. The reason he had chosen to hide his ID back then was not because he was afraid of being surrounded, but because if it was revealed, it would definitely be a little troublesome. There would be many people looking for him, people from his company, people from the media, people from esports clubs, etc. He might not even have time to play games. Before the game officially launched, he still did not want to be disturbed and spoil his gaming mood. Actually, there is another matter that I called Mr. Fang over today. After the practice match ended, Mr. Fang submitted a user feedback form. We have already accepted it and sent it to headquarters. Just half an hour ago, headquarters issued an order to me, hoping that Mr. Fang can join the Battle of the Century Game Project's advisory team and participate in the game's evaluation. Zachary was really convinced. The feedback form that Fang Zhao had submitted had attracted the attention of headquarters and made them decide to invite him to join the advisory team and evaluation team. One could see how precious that feedback form was. Within it, there were many parts that the advisory team had not paid attention to. Fang Zhao's feedback and suggestions had also included some references. Many of the references were more obscure, and very few people had read them. There were even some passages in handwritten notes from the period of destruction that had been preserved in the museum. It was not nitpicking, but it hit the nail on the head. Headquarters felt that this little fellow was a talent and had a good understanding of the history of the period of destruction. That was why, after verifying Fang Zhao's words, they had invited him to join the advisory team. He was also the only person in the Battle of the Century project team younger than 30. At the press conference venue, the esports clubs and media that had been invited had already arrived. Fiery Bird's other partners had also arrived in succession. Among these partners were not only Silver Wing's Polar Light project team, but also a famous toy manufacturer that manufactured the T-Rex model. To the left of the 2S Esports Club was the HWR Esports Club, and to the right was the Boom Esports Club. The three esports clubs were having a war of words. HWR had ridiculed 2S and Boom for making a fool of themselves in the practice match the day before yesterday. 2S and Boom had ridiculed HWR for not even having the qualifications to participate in the single event. HWR's vice-captain, Qiao Yan, crossed his legs and did not look over at 2S's side. He looked ahead casually, but his words were unforgiving. Yeah, at least we admit that we are not good at that. You guys tried your best to brag, but what happened in the end? Didn't you still get trampled on? Disgraceful. Speaking of which, the way you guys crashed was really cool. Our team still has a screenshot of you guys crashing. It's a pity that you guys were wearing helmets at that time, so we couldn't see your expressions. If you had expressions, it would have been like this. Retracting his leg, Qiao Yan's expression changed. His eyes widened in shock, and his expression became one of stupefaction. His teammates in the team roared with laughter. Big Dipper and Transcendental Esports clubs were watching the commotion and did not mind if things got out of hand. Just now, when 2S and Boom had ridiculed HWR, they had joined in as well. As they were bickering, the lights changed. The esports clubs could no longer be bothered with bickering. Those who had been lying down lazily also sat up. The media that had been discussing also stopped their other chores and prepared to catch the news. The important figures were always the last to arrive. Previously, the first 2 rows of the venue had been empty. Now that the press conference was about to begin, those people had entered. Those who entered were the important figures of Fiery Bird's Yangzhou branch. Senior management members, key engineers, representatives from the advisory team, and so on. These people were arranged to sit in the first few rows. However, there was an unexpected figure among the group of people who walked into the hall. Ku Zimo pointed to Fang Zhao, who had also walked out, and asked, "Why is that fella sitting in the first row?" The others had also noticed. Fang Zhao was among the people that entered later. However, since the press conference had begun, they could not discuss it loudly. They could only discuss it internally through messages. How can that kid sit in the front? Could it be that he has some other background? That shouldn't be the case. I remember when that kid first became famous, someone mentioned his background. He was just an ordinary graduate. I never heard that he had any big background. Let's wait and see. If that kid goes on stage to speak, we will know why. Him. He can go on stage to speak at this sort of press conference. He is the person in charge of the Polar Light project team. Don't forget that Polar Light is still endorsing the game. That's why we should abolish the rule of endorsing virtual idols as soon as possible. It's practically useless. Regardless of what the people attending the press conference were thinking in private, the press conference went according to the previous schedule. The new game trailer was released, background explanations were given, and peripheral products were released. The captains of the Big Five also represented their respective clubs to say a few words. Among the 5 teams, the last to go on stage was 2S Esports Club's captain, Xie He. During his speech, he mentioned some of the practices that the media was more concerned about. We weren't good at individual competitions, and after the event, we found many problems. We are very grateful to that mysterious racer. He helped us discover some of our problems early. However, in the official game, we are still the kings of Yangzhou. Big Dipper, Transcendental, Boom, and HWR members practically shouted at the same time, "Bullshit." When Xie He returned to his seat, the Big Five once again declared war. They were debating who was the true king of Yangzhou. Hey, That kid is really going on stage, a 2S member said. The others also looked forward. When the host had introduced Fang Zhao, he had said that he was one of the 8 users of Yanzhou's 10th generation console, one of the game's background music composers, a member of the consultant team and evaluation team, and the person in charge of the Polar Light project. And he's even a member of the consultant team and evaluation team? Doesn't that kid compose music? Why is he in charge of this? Kuzimo also frowned. If that's the case, won't it be difficult to make a move? On stage, Fang Zhao added a few things about the old era. Before he left the stage, he said, "Maybe some people are thinking of beating me up until I don't dare log into the game anymore. Regarding that, I have one thing to say." Fang Zhao glanced over. It seemed like a casual glance, but it made the people on 2SS side feel a little uncomfortable. How did that kid know they were going to block him? Could he be a mind reader? Chapter 126. Whoa. This kid sure is crazy. He's not a professional esports player, yet he's so crazy. I thought 2SS Kuzimo was crazy enough. Never thought there would be someone even crazier. Fang Zhao's words made the mouths of many esports club members twitch. A middle-aged media man lamented, "That's how young people are. I understand." Outside the conference hall, Zhuo Yu was chatting with his comrades. Today, Zhuo Yu had followed the Polar Light project team to the Fiery Bird Yangzhou branch building and bumped into a comrade who worked as a security guard. He had listened in for a while before coming out. After all, Fang Zhao was following Fiery Bird's people inside, so there was no need for him to tag along. He had found his comrade outside to catch up and talk about his work in Qian City. Fiery Bird is very busy. The game is about to be released, and there are many fanatical fans. If we are not careful, someone might sneak in. Not to mention the various exhibits, even if they break other machines, my heart will ache. Zhuo Yu's comrade clutched his chest as he spoke. He recalled a few days ago when a few fanatical fans had gone in to steal the 10th generation console. They had been caught, but they had damaged a few exhibits and lost millions. Fiery Bird did not care about this bit of money, but their hearts ached. Although the few fanatical fans had paid for the damages, they could not help but feel their hearts ache when they saw the artworks placed on the display stand smashed. They were also Fiery Bird fans, and they viewed every item produced by Fiery Bird as a treasure, especially those limited edition items from 40 to 50 years ago. Those were all memorable items and had extraordinary significance. If one was destroyed, it would be one less item. Especially with the recent frequent press conferences. Besides Fiery Bird fans, there are also fans from other esports clubs. We have to keep an eye on them and increase security. But Fiery Bird is really straightforward in paying. What about you? Don't you find it boring following a composer? Zhuo Yu's comrade asked. It's all right. My boss is straightforward in paying, so it's not boring. I even went to Muzhou to watch the sheep herding competition this year. The benefits are good, Zhuo Yu said. That's true. Your boss doesn't lack money. I heard a dog is worth over 100 million. Hey, does your boss have any special hobbies? I heard that people who dabble in the arts like him are more unconventional. You know, people who dabble in the arts. Zhuo Yu pointed to his head. They are different from ordinary people. There is no way to know what they are thinking. He spends most of his time at home. He doesn't need me, but I'm paying him a lot. Then you're very relaxed. You don't have to protect me and you still get paid. Unlike us, who are so tired. Zhuo Yu's comrade sighed. As bodyguards, we obviously need a chance to prove ourselves and protect the boss well. Only by protecting him well can we get paid. The boss will give us more money if he's happy. Since he's giving us more money, we'll protect him in-game too, Zhuo Yu said. You can play games and get bonuses. That's pretty good. Maybe your boss will be happy and give you a raise. I'm envious of you. We work in shifts. You've found a good job. When you're about to resign or get fired, recommend me. Hey, are you trying to steal my job? As the two of them were chatting and laughing, they suddenly saw the door of the venue open, and loud noises could be heard from inside. Zhuo Yu saw Fang Zhao's message on his communications device. All right, that's enough. The press conference is over. I have to send them back. My rest time is over. I have to go out and keep watch. Let's talk when we have time. This time, Fang Zhao left the venue with Zhu Wen and the others. He left a message for Zhuo Yu and asked him to drive over and wait for him. Because of what Fang Zhao had said on stage, some media outlets wanted to interview Fang Zhao, but they didn't succeed. In the blink of an eye, Fang Zhao disappeared. Even the entire Polar Light project team couldn't be seen. Since they couldn't stop Fang Zhao, they didn't waste any more time and went to interview other people. Xavier and Zachary left the interviews to the spokesperson and returned to their office. What a pity. If he had been groomed to be a professional esports player from a young age, Yenzhou's Big Five would probably be fighting over him. Why did he choose to learn composition? Xavier still felt that Fang Zhao had chosen the wrong profession. Such talent. It's a pity, Zachary agreed. They had just found out from headquarters that out of the 110th generation consoles released to the public, only Fang Zhao had passed the threshold of 95. The highest score in other continents had stopped at 95. Perhaps the adaptability value would continue to rise as the machine was used, but at this stage, only Fang Zhao had reached 96, the highest score. That was why Xavier lamented. An esports player with a good seedling had actually chosen to compose. Fang Zhao didn't know about Fiery Bird's evaluation of him. He had asked Zhuo Yu to drive directly to his house because Zhu Wen and the others wanted to get close to the 10th generation and organize a small gathering at his house. Fang Zhao's words at the press conference had also been spread by the media, causing many gamers to be unhappy. An amateur like him actually dares to say such things in front of the Big Five? Isn't he afraid of losing until he doesn't even have his underwear left? Does he think that the 10th generation is in his hands for too long? You don't say. Maybe someone really wants to use this kind of method to force him to sell the 10th generation. There's an old saying that goes, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. If he is willing to sell the 10th generation, it will be fine. Not only will he be relaxed, but he can also make a fortune. But if he isn't willing to sell, even if the Big Five can't bring themselves to do so, others will hunt him down until he doesn't dare to go online. If he doesn't go online and doesn't play games, will he just leave such a good machine at home to collect dust? When the time comes, he will definitely sell it. Who knows, maybe the selling price will be lower. Now the whole world is hyping the 10th generation. It has already reached 60 million. Yesterday, someone predicted that it will reach 80 million in 10 days or so. When the game officially starts, maybe it will exceed 100 million. TSK, is the 10th generation that good? You don't understand. That's called style. Many people want to buy it. Yesterday, I heard that because it is the first exoskeleton model among Fiery Bird's models, it has a high collectible value. In a few decades, its value might even double. In any case, you won't lose out. Who has the means? Sell your house and get a loan to get one. It was impossible to hide the 10th generation, so Fang Zhao had never intended to hide it from the start. Recently, there were more and more people who wanted to buy the 10th generation from him. Yangzhou had 8 10th generation consoles. 5 were in the hands of the Big Five and could not be resold. The owners of the other 2 were also Yangzhou nobles. In comparison, if anyone wanted to buy it, they could only start from Fang Zhao. Recently, Fang Zhao's communications had been blocked. It was quieter. Fortunately, the attention of netizens was quickly diverted by other news. In September, there were more practice matches between the various esports clubs, and they all stole the headlines. This time, Fang Zhao did not interfere in those practice matches. Just as people expected, gaming was one of the main forces of the entertainment industry. After 10 years, gaming circles occupied the top 10 trending topics every day. Even if it did not occupy all of them, it occupied more than half of the top 10 news, suppressing film, television, and music stars. Silver Wing also launched its reserve of dual professional talents. They could not compete with the Big Five, but they could still compete with the other 2 old rivals. In the blink of an eye, it was October 1st. This year, It happened to be a weekend, so there were many people. Fiery Bird's official opening time was 12 noon on October 1st in Huangju. Huangju was 6 hours ahead of Yangju, so in Yangju, the opening time was 6 in the morning. At 5 in the morning, the Virtual Projects Department's internal group chat started to get lively. Zhu Wen and the others were probably so excited that they had not slept the whole night, but they were still very energetic. Zhu Wen, Rodney, and the other technical geeks were a bunch of gaming veterans. 10 years ago, they had not had the opportunity because they had been too young. Now, they could finally participate in this global feast. Everyone is really early, Fang Zhao said in the group chat. Yo. Good morning, boss. Boss, were you so excited that you couldn't sleep? Rodney asked. I slept for 7 hours, Fang Zhao replied. Boss, you have to be careful when you enter the game. Someone wants to ambush you in the game, Fu Yingtian, the department's technical staff, said. They all knew that Fang Zhao had only started playing games after the Virtual Projects department had gradually risen. Previously, he had mostly played shooting games. This was the first time Fiery Bird was playing such a large-scale game. It was a little harder to control, and people who were new to it would definitely feel apprehensive. Furthermore, someone had already said that they wanted to ambush Fang Zhao, so they were worried that Fang Zhao would be affected and be in a bad mood. Don't be nervous, boss. Right, boss, don't be afraid. We'll cover for you. If they want to kill you, they'll have to step over our dead bodies first. Zhu Wen said. Of course, he had to show his loyalty at this time. I'm here too, Zhu Yu said. Of course, he could not fall behind when it came to building goodwill. A raise. I'm not afraid, Fang Zhao said. Boss, how do you feel now? Zhu Wen asked. I thought of a song. Everyone in the Virtual Projects department. Chapter 127. Logging into the game required setting up an image and a game ID. When Fang Zhao had received the 10th generation console, he had registered an account that was commonly used in Fiery Bird games. He had thought of many IDs, but all of them were already being used. The name Fang Zhao was also being used. It was probably a player with the same name and surname. Finally, Fang Zhao typed in alive after 500 years. The system indicated that no one was using it, so he used it. In his previous life, when Fang Zhao had been on the brink of death, he had wished to continue living. He still remembered the regret of stopping at 99 out of 100 steps. However, he had not expected that when he opened his eyes, he would have jumped to 500 years in the future. The 500 years that he had missed could only be understood through images. Although there were still regrets, at least he had seen the development of these 500 years. If his old friends knew about this, they would definitely clamor to live another 500 years. If they could really live another 500 years, they would still be able to meet Fang Zhao now. Unfortunately, there were no IFS. As for his image, Fang Zhao chose to make some slight changes to his current image. Fang Zhao could not remember exactly what he had looked like when he was young in his previous life. He could only make some changes based on the vague impression in his memory. Then, he added 2 scars on his face. This was similar to his appearance in the latter half of his previous life. Since his height was similar to his previous life, there were no changes. Zhu Wen and the others laughed when they saw the scars Fang Zhao had added to their in-game avatars. We know boss worships martyrs. You even imitated the scars of a martyr. Fang Zhao only smiled and did not explain. Zhu Wen and the others did not use their own in-game avatars. Pang Pusong was a little short and fat in real life, but his in-game avatar was like a tall and mighty bodybuilder. Zhu Wen's avatar was set to be 80% similar to his real self, but he added an afro and 2 strange curved beards. The others, like Zhu Wen, added some changes to their avatars. The people from the Virtual Projects department formed teams and entered together. The other players did the same. The people from the gaming clubs all formed teams and entered together. After confirming that he had officially entered, the scene before his eyes changed, and a peaceful scene of the old era appeared before him. The clear sound of the guqin was rhythmically played as the screen changed. The scene in front of them was similar to what was introduced in some of the expansion packs, so the people who saw it were not very surprised. They only looked forward to the scene quickly passing by. They were eager to enter the game and show off their skills. "I heard that the opening clip is 2 minutes long," someone said. "It's too long. Why can't I fast forward? Let's wait. It's only 2 minutes." The team members chatted with each other. Soon, the sound of the zither became distant and hazy. The long notes surged, slow and oppressive. The string music with a low mood sounded, causing people's fragile nerves to tense up. There seemed to be some discordant sounds coming from a distant place. It sounded like people's cries, but it also seemed like it was caused by something else. His field of vision began to shake violently, as if there was a giant beast churning underground. The surface of the ground was like a carpet that had been lifted up and shaken by someone. The ground beneath his feet began to crack, and a bottomless crack appeared. Not far away, a huge cave-in appeared. The viaduct that the vehicles were on broke, and the buildings collapsed in an instant. The bustling city turned into ruins in the blink of an eye. The seaside city in the distance was engulfed by the tsunami. Giant ships capsized, meteorites fell from the sky, and volcanoes erupted. The vibrato of the strings made it sound like someone was shivering, and the drumming was like the roar of a boulder hitting the ground. It was also like an invisible sledgehammer pounding on people's hearts. The flames of the explosion rose up along with the land, blocking everyone's line of sight. It was like a raging inferno. The whole world was finished. The whimpering sound of a bugle horn carried with it a dark hue. The melancholy and low-string music was like the ever-spreading despair of a fallen city. The realistic visual impact, coupled with the tense music, created a suffocating atmosphere. An electronically synthesized sound effect brushed past their ears, as if someone was running hastily beside them. It tugged at the sensitive nerves of the players. The players, who had been discussing, unknowingly stopped talking. The sound of a piano entered faintly, like an old man recalling his faded memories. The combination of sound and shadow displayed the tragic world that had been devastated by the impact of that destructive force. The field of vision began to zoom out. The city shrunk, and the tall buildings disappeared. What appeared before the eyes of all the players was a shrunken map of the world. The land was dark like withered flowers and leaves. It was full of cracks, and beneath the cracks was surging lava and flames that threatened to burn everything. Its changes told everyone that from then on, the old era had ended and the period of destruction had begun. The still heavy string music was permeated with some of the clarity of a piano. The music also began to reflect the struggle between two forces. One was the murderous intent of a disaster wreaking havoc, and the other was the tenacious struggle in a hopeless situation. The rhythm continued to increase, and the beating of the drums and the pulling of the strings became more forceful. The two main themes intertwined, and it was hard to separate them. On the shrunken map, some spots of light that looked like stars gradually appeared. Every second, new spots of light appeared, and some spots of light disappeared. There were also some spots of light that grew bigger and bigger. In any case, the number of spots of light on the map increased. Every dot of light represented a group that was fighting against fate. That was humanity's hope. The sound effects filled the entire picture. Oboes and horns alternated, like souls rising from the ruins. The rumbling percussion represented the awe-inspiring feeling that came after fear. It was like that hellish era, when the refugees experienced a hair-raising process of joining forces after escaping death. After a brief silence, brass, string, electronic music, and a harmony that seemed to come from the distant horizon interweaved together. It was extremely tense, the rhythm firm, and it outlined a grand spirit. At the same time, on the map of the entire world, starting from the two poles, it advanced like a tidal wave. Everywhere it passed, from the wastelands to the ends of the sea, it gradually calmed down. Watching all this, the players understood that this was the process of the world's transformation in that period of history. From the two poles to the equator, the journey of recovery began to spread. And just when everyone thought it was over, a faint harmony that seemed to come from the distant boundary suddenly soared. The string music was divided into several different parts. Apart from the obvious high-pitched melody part, the middle part, which was hard to detect, fused with the distant and resounding harmony, making it difficult to distinguish. The music was like a boundless blue wave between heaven and earth in an instant. It was like the sudden appearance of the light that broke through the night. It was as if an ice-cold electric current had penetrated their spines and reached their brains, causing their bodies to involuntarily tremble. The ground beneath their feet shook once again, but it was different from the shaking that had occurred when the disaster had begun. Instead, something was breaking out of the ground. 12 ash-white stone bodies were revealed. Only their tips poked out, and those who were familiar with them understood what was going on. Huangju Cemetery for Martyrs Monument. Yangju Cemetery for Martyrs Monument. Jizhou, Tongju, Azhou, Jinju, Lazhou, Leiju, Mazhou. Shizhou, Muzhou, Rongzhou, 12 monuments. The main monuments of the 12 largest cemetery for martyrs in the world's 12 continents rose from the ground. The murals and reliefs on them displayed the whizzing rain of bullets and the crisscrossing of blades, recreating that century-long period of bloody history. The lingering fog was like a spiritual white flame, like an undying soul. Set off by the epic grandeur of the music, it burned unceasingly. This was not the roar of blood boiling, but a heroism that stemmed from the stillness. The music faded amidst the sound of remembrance, and the scene no longer changed. All that was left in the field of view were those 12 towering tombstones, as well as those smaller tombstones that were like clusters of stars behind them. All the gamers who had entered the game, whose minds had been filled with thoughts of exploding, killing, and killing, now felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Facing the 12 solemn and serene tombstones, as well as the countless tombstones behind the huge tombstones, was like drinking a cup of ice-cold alcohol. It was extremely cold to the touch, but it was scalding to the bone. This was the message that Fiery Bird wanted to convey to gamers entering the game for the first time. It did not highlight individual images, but the whole. It was a piece of history, a group of people. The 100-year period of the period of destruction, the death toll of over 10 billion people. Enormous sacrifices had been made in exchange for the start of the new era. That century-long war had been so tragic that people living 500 years later in the new era would find it hard to understand. Many people thought that the opening sequence of Battle of the Century would be a passionate rendering or a terrifying bloody scare. But in reality, what Fiery Bird wanted to convey to gamers was that there had been many sacrifices during the period of destruction. Many people with outstanding abilities had also fallen in battle. These tombstones were a warning. So many people with outstanding abilities had not survived. Could you guys? The most powerful way to convince gamers was to let them experience it for themselves. Survival was a state of mind. So now, all the players standing here, are you ready to walk into hell? Someone came back to his senses and took a deep breath. I feel like I've been beaten senseless by this opening sequence. That's right. Was someone calling me just now? No, no one called you. In any case, I didn't, his teammate said. The other teammates also chimed in. I didn't call you either. Are you hallucinating? I think I also heard someone call me. A timid voice said. When? Someone asked. When the tombstones were raised. What about you? That person asked the first person who had spoken. Me too. SSSSS. A collective gasp sounded out. Think back carefully. When these tombstones were raised, it seemed like there was a voice coming from behind us, one of the team members said hesitantly. Now that you mention it, I think I also felt that way. Did I see a ghost? Fuck, don't say any more. I'm getting goosebumps. Haha, that's all you got. Are you guys scared? One of the more daring ones mocked. It's not that I'm scared, it's just that it feels weird. I'm a little trembling. But I'm also a little excited. Sigh, I can't tell what that feeling is. In fact, similar conversations were happening in many teams. Some teams had members who were studying music and had studied symphonic structures. They had followed their friends into the game. One reason was to have some fun, and the other was to listen to the opening and background music of this year's Fiery Bird game and learn from it. Yesterday, The students who were studying music had been discussing which great master's work would be used for the opening. The teachers had also mentioned that the opening song of Fiery Bird's game from 10 years ago had been used as a test topic for students. Perhaps this year's test would also involve this year's opening song, so they listened even more attentively. Music was the soul of a game. Only those companies that weren't serious would skimp on it. Truly serious game producers, like Fiery Bird, would be willing to put in a lot of effort on music. Many composers were eager to prove themselves, but were ultimately rejected by Fiery Bird. Those who were invited were all famous people in the music circles, and the works that were ultimately chosen were those that had defeated dozens of famous composers. The background music for the opening segment was of utmost importance, and as music students, they naturally would not let it slip by. Because the opening was synchronized across the globe, the time zones were different. In some places, it was early in the morning, so some people set their alarms to wake up in the middle of the night to log in, while others simply stayed up all night to experience it firsthand. After the professionals heard it, they had already started to analyze it out of conditioned reflex. Many people who studied music knew that in disaster movies or documentaries, in order to express a powerful and exciting sound effect, discordant harmonies and unconventional musical combinations were often used to provoke the auditory and sensory organs. However, the mainstream copyrighted music production studios in the new era mostly focused on electronic synthesizers. Even orchestral music was mostly synthesized using electronic simulations to create a visual and auditory impact through the art of vocal music. But the opening song just now was a fusion of classical and modern instruments and electronics. It was just that the style of the music was not as flamboyant as the songs in the disaster movies they had heard before, but it still created an extremely shocking auditory and sensory effect. This was the foundation. To be able to perfectly utilize such valiant skills, this was definitely not a youngster. That was not right either. To be able to blend classical and new era music, to be able to make perfect use of both electronic and traditional instruments, and to not lose out in terms of grandeur and shock. They thought of a person, the person who had started the trend of studying symphonic structures. Professionals who were interested in this kind of music had all heard the four movements of Fang Zhao's 100-year period of destruction, and this opening had reminded them of the third movement of the 100-year period of destruction, Mission. But these two pieces were completely different. The core of the former was movement, like a dazzling explosion of flames, while the latter was stillness, like a soul fire ignited within a tombstone, silent yet heroic. Fang Zhao. Is it him? This was what many music professionals were thinking. However, pure gamers would not pay attention to such things. Although they had calmed down a little because of the opening and the music, they were still very much looking forward to the game. However, this time, they were on their guard, especially the experienced members of esports clubs. They might not be reliable in other matters, but they had a keen sense of gaming. What comes next might be a difficult journey. Over at the Virtual Projects Department, Zhu Wen and the others, who had been clamoring for a head-busting explosion, did not utter a word. They had also sensed Fiery Bird's message. Zhu Yu shuddered. When he had been watching the opening, he had felt uneasy listening to the background music. He knew that the opening background music had been composed by Fang Zhao, and as a bodyguard, he had experienced the entire process of Fang Zhao collecting materials. Now he finally understood why Fang Zhao had gone to the cemetery to collect materials. Because in Fiery Bird's opening, the finishing touch had been the tombstones. How many hot-headed people would be subdued by this? However, Fiery Bird's every action had a purpose. Zhu Yu had also sensed that what came next might be very difficult. "Boss, are we going in?" The others looked at Fang Zhao. The entrance to the game was at the foot of the 12 tombstones. "Wait a moment," Fang Zhao said. At the entrance, there was actually a choice to pay respects. One could enter directly or choose to pay their respects before entering. Some impatient people chose to enter directly, while others hoped that the martyrs would bless them with good luck and chose to pay their respects. Some of Zhu Wen and the others wanted to enter directly, while others wanted to pay their respects, but in the end, they still looked to Fang Zhao. They had entered the game as a team, so if they wanted to enter, they would naturally enter together and move in unison. Hearing Fang Zhao say wait a moment, they knew Fang Zhao's choice. That's right. Boss worships martyrs a lot, Rodney said. Fang Zhao did not say anything. He looked at the 12 tombstones in front of him. He had seen every single one of them. His feelings for these tombstones were different from others. After the opening scene, other than where they were, which was still lit up, the surroundings had already darkened. Just like in the worship area, the countless tombstones behind the huge tombstones were like the reflection of the vast starry sky on the surface of the water. Drunk as if the sky is in the water, 3 cups of strong liquor and the soul returns. Just like before, Fang Zhao chose the wine sacrifice. Long time no see, my former world. Zhuo Yu glanced at Fang Zhao. He did not know if it was an illusion, but he felt that Fang Zhao's gaze was a little scary. The others were very curious about Fang Zhao's method of paying respects. They wanted to follow suit, but Fang Zhao stopped them. In the end, they all used their own methods of paying respects. Zhu Wen even bowed a few times. As he paid his respects, he said, I beg the martyrs to bless me. Don't be too unlucky, don't starve to death. After some long-winded talk, the team officially entered the game. As a team, they were all randomly assigned to a location. Warehouse. Zhuo Yu looked at the scene in front of him. This was a warehouse used to store miscellaneous items. It was relatively empty, as if someone had rummaged through it. A few boxes used to store miscellaneous items were piled up at the side. Giving a gun right from the start. Zhu Wen checked his equipment. There was an additional gun. This should be the opening gift that Fiery Bird was talking about, right? Yesterday, Fiery Bird's official website had said, when the game starts, everyone will be given a small gift. We hope everyone will like it. As long as there's a gun, hey. Why do I only have a knife and no gun? I have a gun. This gun is a little too old. What's the point of playing with these few bullets? An ordinary police handgun from the old era could have 15 to 20 bullets in its magazine, depending on the type of gun. Not having that many bullets made people feel vexed. Could it be that there are other places hiding things? Zhu Wen, Rodney, and the others discussed searching other places in this warehouse. Lower your voice, Fang Zhao said. Zhu Wen laughed and replied, I know. Boss, you are too tense. It's just a game. As long as you are having fun, no need to be so serious. After all, you have 3 lives. He had listened carefully and had not heard any suspicious movements in the surroundings. These few technicians had played together for a long time and knew how to cooperate. There were people on guard. Besides, when they were playing a gunfight game, they were even louder than this. This was their first time playing a Fiery Bird game, and they were too excited. Let them have some fun first. After all, this was a game, and it would not be completely like reality. After entering the game, players had 3 lives, but after these 3 lives were used up, they would have to wait a week before they could come back online. Of course, they could also buy lives, but the earliest they could come back online was the next day. This was the strictest limit on health in all of Fiery Bird's games. In short, the fact that they had 3 lives made Zhu Wen and the others feel much more relaxed. After all, they could continue playing after dying once. Fang Zhao wanted to take a look around but was stopped by Zhu Wen and the others. Boss, just sit here. We will look for things. At this time, they had to take good care of their leader. Zhuo Yu stood guard beside Fang Zhao. He nodded and said, right. Boss, you sit here first. They will go look for food. Don't worry, if there are robbers or berserk beasts, I will kill them all. There is a small kitchen here. Someone entered a room from behind. Hey, is this an old-era decompressor? No, I remember the information saying that this is an old-era microwave oven. Fang Zhao listened to their discussion and reminded them again, I advise you to keep your voices down. The few of them were probably too excited and did not take it seriously. Fang Zhao did not say anything else. He sat quietly on a wooden box nailed to it. Chapter 128. In the small kitchen in the back, Zhu Wen and the others were very interested in old-era kitchenware. At their age, This was not their first time playing Fiery Bird games, but this was their first time playing on the day of the game's release. When they came of age, they could officially log into the game, but by that time, many guides had already been released. Basically, they followed the experience of others and did not have much excitement. But now, they could only rely on themselves. This sort of experience was a novelty for gamers. Even though they had played games related to the period of destruction before, none could compare to Fiery Bird's game in terms of detail. Zhu Wen rummaged in the kitchen and found an egg. He was very interested in old-era microwave ovens, so he put the egg into the microwave to play with it. Is there electricity? Yes. What else is there to set up? Why isn't it AI? How troublesome. Hey, just pick one randomly. Then this one. Whoa. The machine is starting. Zhu Wen and the others gathered in front of the microwave, heads together, staring at the egg as if it was a rare object. Zhong Yu and Fu Yingtian, who were in charge of security, could not help but look over curiously. There's no change. As soon as he said that, they heard a bang. The few of them jumped back in shock. It exploded? Why did the egg explode when it was placed inside? Was it used improperly? Song Miao, did we use it incorrectly? Song Miao did not understand either. Maybe. I've never used it before. Then let's find something else to try. Zhu Wen was addicted. Let's see if there's anything else. Hey, there's fish here. Outside, Fang Zhao, who was sitting on a box in the warehouse, let out a long sigh. He really wanted to beat someone up. Zhu Yu, who was standing guard, could not help but glance over when he heard the commotion. He was also very curious about old-era artifacts. Besides letting everyone experience the period of destruction, this game also satisfied everyone's curiosity about the old era. This was a kind of feeling. So now, when Zhu Yu heard the commotion, his heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. Ah! A miserable shriek broke the joyous atmosphere. Fuck! I was bitten by a fish. Zhu Wen yelled. Following that, banging sounds came from the kitchen. That's enough, Pang Pusong. It's not moving. Dead. Does it give any experience? 0, 5 points added. The others listened with some regret. I'm done for, Zui wailed. The few of them once again came before Fang Zhao. Fang Zhao was still the one making decisions in the team. If something happened, he had to be informed first. Rodney gave Fang Zhao a brief summary of what had happened. It turned out that when Zui was rummaging around to see if there was anything else he could play with, he saw something in a covered bucket in the corner. After carefully opening it, he found that there were only 2 palm-sized fish inside. One was already belly up, motionless, obviously dead, and the other was weakly swimming inside. Just as Zui let down his guard, the originally weak fish suddenly jumped up and bit Zui. It was so fast that Zui couldn't dodge in time, and his hand was scratched. The fish grew its teeth. The fish that jumped out of the bucket bounced on the ground. Pang Pusong took out an iron rod from behind the kitchen door and knocked the fish to death, gaining 0.5 experience points. As for Zui, who had just been scratched, he realized that his status was infected. He couldn't cry even if he wanted to. As time passed, his infection value increased. When it reached a critical point, he would no longer be able to control himself. Like the mutated creatures, he would attack his teammates. I don't need your help. I'm going to end myself. Zui pulled out his gun and pointed it at his head. Comrades, wait for me. I'll be back in half an hour with the strategy. Trust me. Zui was indeed regretful. He had been too careless just now, but he did not expect this game to be even more sinister and cunning than the games he had played before. An unremarkable fish had actually bitten him offline. It was a great humiliation. Bang! A gunshot rang out. After killing himself, Zui also disappeared from the spot. Fang Zhao closed his eyes and didn't speak. The others saw that Fang Zhao didn't look too good and didn't say anything. You guys. Fang Zhao opened his eyes. Boss, what are your orders? The few of them were much more well-behaved. They also realized that their actions had been too stupid. They had probably angered their boss. Go offline and wait, Fang Zhao said. The few of them looked at Fang Zhao, as if trying to tell if he was joking. Go offline and calm down for half an hour. Okay. This was for them to reflect on themselves. It was like facing a wall for doing something wrong. The few of them looked at each other. Rodney hesitantly asked Fang Zhao, if we all leave, what about you, boss? I have Zhuyu. Since Fang Zhao had said so, they felt that it was better to obediently go offline. They didn't want their boss to deduct their wages. Anyway, Fang Zhao only wanted them to go offline and reflect on themselves for half an hour. After half an hour, they would come back online with Zhu Wei. Perhaps they could even bring the latest strategy to share. Pang Pusong, Fang Zhao called out. Give me the metal stick. Oh, okay. Pang Pusong respectfully handed over the metal stick and obediently went offline. He had always been obedient to Fang Zhao. When the others went offline, only Fang Zhao and Zhuyu were left in the warehouse. Zhuyu thought about it and felt that he had to say a few words. After all, it's not a professional team. It's just for fun. Actually, everyone is just too curious. Don't worry about this. I know. Seeing that Fang Zhao didn't want to say more, Zhuyu didn't say anything else. He just didn't understand why Fang Zhao was just sitting there. Why wasn't he looking for food or something? Suddenly, Zhu유's gaze shifted and he looked in a direction. He heard gunshots coming from that direction, and it was a series of gunshots. It wasn't too close, but it wasn't too far either. It was probably some other player in the vicinity. Was something coming? Zhuyu turned his head to persuade Fang Zhao to find a place to hide, but he saw that Fang Zhao's hand was trembling. Is he afraid? Zhuyu laughed to himself. Fang Zhao was only in his early 20s. He had less gaming experience than the others. Didn't he reveal his true colors after putting on such an act just now? Actually, admitting that he was afraid wasn't a big deal. It wouldn't shake his position as the boss of the department. Could it be that Fang Zhao knew he would be afraid, so he used Zhu Wei's incident to chase the others away so he could adapt? The more Zhuyu thought about it, the more he felt that was the case. However, what needed to be said still had to be said. Boss, I heard footsteps and roars. There's more than one, and they aren't human. They might be mutated beasts. Do you want to hide in the kitchen? No need. Then hide behind me later, boss. Don't worry, I'm here. If things don't look good, you can go offline first. Not hearing Fang Zhao's reply, Zhuyu didn't ask any further. He stared at the metal door of the warehouse. Zhuyu, who had his back to Fang Zhao, did not notice that as the footsteps and roars approached, Fang Zhao's hand, which was holding the metal rod, trembled less and less. Just as the footsteps stopped in front of the metal door, he steadied himself. Fang Zhao seemed to be able to hear his own heart beating like a drum, as well as the sound of his blood rushing through his veins. He wasn't afraid. He was excited. Perhaps the 10th generation console's performance was too good. Even his sense of smell was 70% real. With every breath he took, the filth and blood in the air seemed to overlap with the world in his memory that had been separated from him for a long time. The emotions he had suppressed since his rebirth seemed to have found a breakthrough and were about to erupt. Bang! 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 The silhouettes that arrived in front of the metal door roared and slammed against it. The metal door creaked and groaned as it was chained shut. Through the crack in the metal door, Fang Zhao could see the blood-stained silhouettes outside. Their bloodshot eyes were staring at the two people inside the warehouse, and disgusting yellow saliva was dripping from their bared teeth. During the early years of the period of destruction, many organisms, including humans, had mutated due to the sudden calamity. Regardless of whether they flew in the sky or swam in the water, not a single one was spared. After the mutation, they would lose their rationality and become irascible. Some would gradually die due to the mutation, while others would mutate further on the basis of the mutation, becoming even more lethal berserk beasts. They only loved blood and slaughter, and would display an extremely strong desire to attack humans or other living creatures. Many organisms that had not mutated were massacred. The number of species that perished during the period of destruction was uncountable. In the new era, Some of the skeletons and rare specimens of old-era organisms that had survived were treated as precious art collections. Even though many species had been resurrected through genetic technology, the price of old-era specimens had always been high. This was the sentiment of people in the new era. Other than that, some specimens of organisms from the period of destruction were also treated as art collections. Fang Zhao remembered seeing a large-scale auction earlier this year. A specimen from the early years of the period of destruction had been bought by a Muzhou collector for the high price of 20 million. That specimen had been a bright-colored mutated organism from the early years of the period of destruction. Scientists back then had made a batch of specimens to study the ravaging virus. Following the chaos of war, they had been sent to various places until the end of the period of destruction and the establishment of the new era. The specimen that had survived for 100 years in a liquid container had been dried into a special specimen. After a few more events, it had been auctioned off as a collector's item. Many people in Yangzhou knew about this. This organism had been trending on the internet for some time. Most people were not interested in the biological name that historians had given it, but they remembered the affectionate name that netizens had given it, 20 million. This was probably the little gift that Fiery Bird had mentioned for everyone. Chapter 129. Unlike the colorful specimens that the masses of the new era were familiar with, the game reproduced its original appearance and temperament to a greater extent. These wild beasts that had mutated from canine diseases had bloodstains of varying shades of reddish-brown on their blood-like fur. They bared their fangs, and there was even some flesh between their teeth. Their bloodshot eyes spewed out a vicious, murderous aura. Perhaps people who saw them for the first time would be shocked. Most people only came into contact with these creatures in history and biology classes, or in some simple games. But for Fang Zhao, it was like a long and familiar memory was resurfacing. In his previous life, in order to survive, besides normal rescue and foraging missions, he had taken the initiative to hunt these aggressive mutated beasts. One killed meant one less. The chains outside the iron door were not broken, but the already unstable iron door was about to be knocked down. Through the crack in the door, Fang Zhao could see the murderous aura emanating from the silhouettes. They just wanted to tear the people inside the warehouse to shreds. Zhuoyu took a deep breath. As an experienced former Special Forces soldier, he felt that even though this game was a little scary, he could handle it with his abilities. His body was ready for battle. Since his boss wasn't willing to leave, he could only stand there and fight. This was a chance for him to show his loyalty. Bang! The metal door was smashed open and fell toward the warehouse with a loud crash. The ground shook under Fang Zhao's feet, and the sound reverberated through the warehouse like it could shake one's soul. Bang! 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 7 consecutive shots were fired in quick succession. The moment the metal door fell, Zhuoyu's gun unleashed its full potential. The 3 mutated beasts at the front were felled. Killing 3 mutated beasts with 7 bullets was considered a good result. However, Zhuoyu was not satisfied with this result. According to his estimation, to kill 3 beasts, he would need at least 5 bullets. Could it be that he hadn't used a gun in a long time and was rusty? He often went to the shooting range to practice, and he had never stopped playing the game. After thinking it over, Zhuoyu felt that the gun in his hand wasn't good enough. After all, it was an old gun from the old era, so its poor performance was understandable. Yeah, this kind of antique would definitely affect his performance. The mutated beasts outside didn't give Zhuoyu time to think. There weren't just 3 beasts gathered outside the door, but 6. Outside the warehouse, other mutated beasts heard the commotion and ran over. The other 3 that had charged in turned, trying to circle around Zhuoyu and pounce on Fang Zhao. It was the same in the real apocalypse. Although they had become irritable due to the disease, their instinct to pick on the weak was still engraved in their bones. If Zhuoyu was alone, they would only attack Zhuoyu, but Zhuoyu had killed 3 of them in an instant. This made them choose to attack the other person in the warehouse first. Bang, bang, bang. It was another 3 shots in quick succession, but this time, only one was killed. The other one didn't hit its vital parts. It just rolled over and got up again, as if it couldn't feel the pain. "Boss, be careful." Zhuoyu calculated his remaining bullets. 2 shots to finish off one. The other was already very close, and it was about to circle around Zhuoyu and pounce on Fang Zhao. Without hesitation, Zhuoyu pulled out a kitchen knife that Zhuoyu had tossed to him when he logged off. Just as he was about to make a move, he felt a strong gust of wind from an object whizzing past his ear. It was like a high-speed train whizzing past him. Fang Zhao swung the wooden box he had been sitting on and smashed it against the mutated dog that was pouncing on him. Crack! The wooden box fell apart from the force of the impact. The wooden board nailed to the ground snapped, and the mutated dog flew backward, crashing into another mutated dog that had just run in from outside the warehouse. Fang Zhao took 2 steps forward, moving from behind Zhuoyu to in front of him. His ice-cold metal rod was like a sudden downpour, crashing down on the mutated dog. His entire being seemed like it was about to set off a storm. Zhuoyu was speechless, frozen in the position of holding the kitchen knife. Bang! Bang! Crack! Crack! Before the sound of the wooden box falling apart disappeared, Zhuoyu could clearly hear the sound of bone and flesh colliding with each other. Following the sound of bones breaking, the mutated dog let out a blood-curdling scream. Zhuoyu's eyes widened, as if he had seen something unbelievable. His eyeballs were about to pop out of their sockets. 1 dog, 2 dogs. Under the violent barrage of metal rods, the nearby mutated dogs were killed one after another. Mutated dogs kept coming in from outside the warehouse, but Fang Zhao's expression didn't change. He raised his arm and smashed the mutated dogs that ran in from outside the warehouse. It seemed like there was no pattern to it, but every blow was a targeted attack. To Zhuoyu, the sound of the metal rod striking bone and flesh was like a clap of thunder, so loud that he didn't know how to react. A mutated dog was knocked to the ground, but it didn't die immediately. After struggling for a while, it crawled back up. Its bloodthirsty gaze wasn't directed at Fang Zhao but at Zhuoyu, who was behind Fang Zhao. It got up with a low growl and was about to pounce on Fang Zhao again when its hind leg was grabbed by someone. The forceful tug caused its entire body to fly out of the box. The dog was swung in an arc in the air before crashing into the figure that had appeared again. Fang Zhao didn't give them any time to get up. He hurried over and launched another round of fierce attacks. Crack! Bang! The blood-stained metal rod in Fang Zhao's hand was slightly bent. In the blink of an eye, Fang Zhao had used the metal rod to finish off 5 mutated dogs. Zhuoyu, who was holding the kitchen knife, stood there in a daze. His expression was lifeless. Was this still the artistic young boss who couldn't carry anything on his shoulders? Zhuoyu was howling in his heart. Is this fucking schizophrenic? Why is he so violent? Has he been infected? After finishing off 5 mutated dogs with a metal rod, Fang Zhao didn't even look at Zhuoyu. He threw the unnaturally bent metal rod to the ground and calmly removed the gloves on his hands. The gloves were cotton gloves that had been kept in a wooden crate, but now they were stained with blood. Throwing the blood-stained gloves on the ground, Fang Zhao pulled out his gun and continued walking toward the warehouse entrance. He raised the muzzle and spewed out deadly smoke. Bang, bang. 1 bullet hit the mutated beast dog in the neck. The other went straight through its bloodshot eyes and into its brain. It collapsed without a sound. Bang, 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 bang. Other than the first dog, which was finished off with 2 bullets, the other 4 mutated dogs that appeared in front of the warehouse were all killed with 1 shot. Zhuoyu watched as Fang Zhao walked over the corpses of the mutated beasts. That calm and cool-headedness was definitely not an act. Even though it was just a game, Zhuoyu could feel the murderous aura emanating from Fang Zhao's body. Fang Zhao's precise shooting made Zhuoyu hallucinate. Between him and Fang Zhao, who was actually from the special forces, just as Zhuoyu started to doubt himself, Fang Zhao suddenly turned towards Zhuoyu, raised his gun, and fired. Zhuoyu sucked in a breath of cold air. He felt all the hairs on his body stand on end and his scalp go numb. That moment of realism made Zhuoyu feel like he had left the game. Is he crazy enough to kill his own teammate? Just as this thought flashed through Zhuoyu's mind, he heard movement behind him. Only when he turned around did he realize that Fang Zhao's gun had not been aimed at him. Instead, it had been aimed at a small mutated beast the size of half an arm that had snuck in behind him. The bullet had pierced through its head, killing it in one shot. What shocked Zhuo Yu was not just Fang Zhao's accuracy. Fang Zhao had fired without any warning. That strong sense of self-confidence under his calm demeanor wasn't something a rookie who had never held a real gun before could do. Even though advances in technology allowed games to simulate situations that were close to reality, that kind of mentality and aura could not be simulated in a game. Shooting range practice? No, it was definitely more than that. Rather than saying he was an athlete, Fang Zhao was more like a killer who had experienced countless killings. For the time being, there were no other dangers, and there were no suspicious movements in the surroundings. The warehouse was quiet again, but the atmosphere was rather strange. Zhuo Yu felt like he was in the middle of a cold winter wind. Zhuo Yu felt his lips tremble. Even his voice was trembling. For some reason, Zhuo Yu had a lot of questions in his mind, but when he met Fang Zhao's gaze, he swallowed them all. He understood that it was not good to know too much. Fang Zhao had used the incident with Zhu Wen to chase everyone else offline. His intention was not to calm down the few in the department, but to avoid scaring them. But he had only left Zhuo Yu here, meaning that he had no intention of hiding anything from him. As a professional bodyguard, keeping his mouth shut was a must, and he had spent the longest time with his boss. Zhuo Yu understood that from today onwards, this boss would not hide anything from him. Boss, just now you were really mighty and domineering. Towards the end, Zhuo Yu changed the word bloody and violent to something else. Fang Zhao glanced at him. Oh, sorry, I got too into character. You're too immersed in your role. Who are you kidding? Zhuo Yu's lips trembled as he stammered, Boss. I need to pee. Can I go offline and take care of it? Approved. After some thought, Fang Zhao added, let them wait for another half an hour after you go offline. Yes. This was the most respectful attitude Zhuo Yu had had since becoming a bodyguard. Silver Wing Tower 50th floor, Virtual Projects Department. After Zhuo Yu went offline, he came out of the gaming capsule. This room also contained the gaming capsules of the other people in the department. This was a room that had been specially arranged for the convenience of playing games. The gaming equipment that everyone had brought to the company were all Fiery Bird 9th Generation Upgrade Edition, including Zhuo Yu's. This was what many in the company envied about the Virtual Projects Department. Rich and willful. Zhuo Yu practically ate, drank, and lived in the company, so naturally, he was with the others. There was no one else in the room. Zhuo Yu let out a long sigh and wiped the sweat off his forehead. With a complicated expression, he sighed, shook his head, and walked out of the room. As it was the weekend, Zhu Wen, Rodney, and the others were at the office, freeloading. When Zhuo Yu came out, Zhu Wen and the others were in the middle of a discussion. Hey, Zhuo Yu, you hung up too? Where's boss? Zhu Wen asked. Nonsense, I'm still alive. I just needed to pee. Boss. Boss is fine. Zhuo Yu emphasized the last three words. But the others did not think much of it. Rodney asked curiously, why are you sweating so much? Is it hot? None of your business. Zhuo Yu did not want to say that he was sweating because of Fang Zhao. Recalling Fang Zhao's words, Zhuo Yu added, Boss wants you to face the wall and reflect for another half an hour. Because some people were not at the office, Zhuo Yu sent another notice in the group chat, asking them to wait another half an hour before going online. Why? Did you make the boss angry again and implicate us? Zhu Wen asked. Go away. Do you think we can guess what boss is thinking? Just follow the rules. If you want to know the reason, ask him yourself when you go online. I'm not stupid. Zhu Wen had lost his life because of a small fish when he went online today. He was reflecting on his actions. He had already made boss angry once, so he was not stupid enough to confront him. I better gather more useful materials. There are very few people posting guides today. Some teams that specialized in posting guides had posted pitifully few things so far. They only reminded everyone to keep their voices down, as the sound would agitate the already sickly beasts even more. Zhu Wen had probably been bitten because they had been too talkative in the kitchen. The sickly fish had gone berserk again. As for those who had been bitten offline, some were in the same situation as Zhu Wen. Zhu Wen had been bitten, others had been bitten by rats, unknown bugs, and so on. If they had not been careful, they would have died the moment they went online. If only we had listened to boss. Zhu Wen sighed. Being sent offline to calm down for an hour is torture. Zhuo Yu's mouth twitched. He wanted to say something, but he did not know what to say. He could not tell them the truth about Fang Zhao sending them offline. Shaking his head, Zhuo Yu went to the pantry and had a glass of water to calm himself down. Then he sat down and reflected. It was said that the essence of a person's soul could be seen in the virtual world. Could it be that Fang Zhao's true nature was exposed in-game? Before this, Zhuo Yu's impression of Fang Zhao had been that he was a literary youth, but after this incident, he knew that Fang Zhao was definitely not what he had imagined. He suddenly recalled the times when he had followed Fang Zhao out to collect materials. Back then, they had been stared at and checked by cemetery guards. Who had those guards been watching? Was it him, Zhuo Yu? No. It was Fang Zhao. At the time, Zhuo Yu had thought it was Fang Zhao's neuroticism that had attracted the attention of the guards. Now it seemed that the guards, who were said to be the most sensitive to danger, had been right all along. Zhuo Yu wanted to slap himself when he thought about how he had bragged in front of Fang Zhao. Stupid as hell. When Zhu Wen entered the pantry to pour some tea, he saw Zhuo Yu hugging his head and squatting on the sofa, mumbling, "I was wrong, I was really wrong." "Hey, bro. What hit you?" Zhu Wen asked. Chapter 130. After Zhuo Yu went offline, Fang Zhao quietly dragged a wooden crate and sat in the warehouse for a minute, casually redeeming quite a few bullets with his points. What was better than reality was that everyone in the game had a bag. Small items could be stored inside, including magazines and food. Fang Zhao laughed silently. If reality could be like the game, there wouldn't have been so many deaths. After all, a game was just a game. It wasn't the real era. Fang Zhao knew that this was not the world he had once lived in. It was just a virtual, incomplete replica, or even the background of a game. But because it was too real, everything around him, even the smell in the air, stirred up the emotions that Fang Zhao had been suppressing for a long time. It was as if a belated storm was blowing in the depths of his soul. He couldn't go back to that era, and he didn't want to go back. Normal people didn't want to be abused. He had spent close to a century working hard. This was a rare opportunity that others couldn't have. Of course, he had to enjoy it. This was a world that he and countless others had exchanged a century of time and lives for. Fang Zhao didn't miss that era. He just missed the people of that era. He took a deep breath, as if he were venting all the frustrations in his heart. That's right. I have to enjoy it. However, before that, he had to find a way to vent the anger he had been suppressing for so long. Even if he acted like everyone else in the new era, the memories of his soul were still dominated by those 100 years of hell. Even if he had used all sorts of methods to suppress it, he couldn't let it go on forever. Now he had found a way to vent. Wasn't this what he had been waiting for? Maybe others used this game to find a way out, or maybe it was just for entertainment. Some people were looking for excitement, but Fang Zhao was different. What had just happened was just a warm-up, but the restless factors hidden in his soul had already awakened. Fang Zhao wouldn't stop now. It was just as well that Zhuo Yu wasn't around. The excitement in Fang Zhao's eyes was quickly restrained. In the blink of an eye, it was as if Fang Zhao had blended into the warehouse. His breath was in harmony with his surroundings. Other than the warehouse and the kitchen, there were many rooms upstairs. They were probably the workers' dormitories. Fang Zhao did not miss a single sound. He could distinguish every syllable and every instrument in a song. Similarly, he could discern the movements hidden within the cacophony of noises. There were people in the room upstairs, but they could not be considered people, because they had already broken away from the category of normal people. During the period of destruction, these people were like mutated animals. They had lost their original consciousness and had become bloodthirsty, manic, and extremely aggressive. They would maintain this aggressive nature until their bodies could no longer provide the energy to move and they died. There was no cure. There were infected people, and naturally, there were survivors. The survivors all developed antibodies that could resist the infection of the manic virus. In the new era, the human body also had antibodies, and there were also relevant medical methods to defend against it. The deadly threat of the past could no longer make a comeback. However, during the period of destruction, people who had been infected with the virus had also been classified as people who had to be killed. A cold metallic glint flashed, and the malevolent-looking, bloodshot infected person collapsed. A wound had appeared on his neck. A lightning-fast blade had severed his brainstem and cut off the signal output from his brain to his body. If it had been a normal person, they would have died from this cut. These infected people did not die immediately, but they were unable to make any more aggressive movements. They could only lie there and wait for death. It was like this in the game, and it was the same during the period of destruction. Fang Zhao cleared out all the rooms upstairs and then left the warehouse. Clearing out the warehouse was just to give Zhu Wen and the others a safer place. When Zhu Wen and the others went online, they would not have to continue clearing out the rooms upstairs. And after that, it was time for Fang Zhao to have some fun. Infected people, kill. Mutated beasts, kill. Fang Zhao was like a leopard ambushing its prey in the grasslands. Whether it was his movement and concealment skills, or his precise and rapid shooting, it would be exaggerated even in textbooks. Even many soldiers with rich battlefield experience might not be able to do this, let alone someone like Zhu Yu, who had come from the special forces. Magazines were being used up at an alarming rate, but if one looked at his points, one could see that even though he had redeemed quite a number of magazines, his points were still increasing. Fang Zhao maintained a high efficiency in clearing out the beasts, practically one shot per target. And in Fang Zhao's status bar, besides his points, his experience points were also rising at a terrifying rate. Plus 10 plus 10 plus 20 plus 1 plus 5 plus 10 plus 1 plus 30. Different targets gave different experience points, but Fang Zhao did not pay attention to his experience points. All he wanted to do now was to kill to his heart's content and vent the anger he had been suppressing for a long time. And compared to experience points, he cared more about his points, because in this game, points could be used to exchange for items. Battle of the Century map, south of Yangzhou District 79, inside a 7-story residential building. 2 players were holed up in a room on the 2nd floor, looking out the window at the 2 mutated beasts approaching the building. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Fire, one of them urged his companion. Wait a bit more, it's out of range. It's too far, a waste of bullets. It's getting closer, it's already discovered us. Don't be anxious. How can we not be anxious? It's already so close. We'll be bitten to death. Don't rush me, I know. They're about to jump. Quick, fire, I know. I'll bang, bang. The 2 mutated beasts that were charging toward the 2nd floor fell to the ground, never to get up again. After a few seconds of silence. Those 2 shots weren't fired by you, right? I knew it wasn't from the sound of it. One of them carefully craned his neck and looked all around. Not seeing anyone, he angrily pounded the wall. It's been robbed. I told you to hurry up and fire. Look, if you were a step slower, it would have been robbed. Shut up. South of District 79, inside an office building. A figure quietly came to the sniping spot he had his eyes on. He took out the sniper rifle he had exchanged and set it up. His cold eyes looked through the scope at the frantic figures running on the street outside the building. His finger was on the trigger. The people in the opposite building were probably a group of students who had just entered university. Their reflexes were not strong. There were many of them, and they didn't have much experience. When they saw so many 20 million people surrounding them, they panicked and fired randomly. They didn't kill many targets, but their own people were exposed quickly. They were probably killed and went offline, or they ran out of bullets and went offline. The gunshots from the opposite side were no longer as loud. He had taken advantage of the chaos on the opposite side to take advantage of it. He used his points to exchange for a sniper rifle. He loved the feeling of killing his prey. Every time his prey's blood burst out, it would make his blood boil. However, as a sniper who loved shooting games, he still had the necessary qualities. He adjusted his state of mind, calmed down, and prepared to attack his target. Imagining the scene of his prey's head exploding in the next moment, a victorious smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. However, this smile froze in the next moment. With a gunshot, his prey fell to the ground, no longer moving. He wasn't the one who fired the shot. Someone else was one step ahead of him. He cursed under his breath. Without delay, he continued to aim at his next target. Just as he was about to make his move, his prey fell again. A third, a fourth, a fifth. Through the scope, he saw the 20 million people fall one after another. One shot, one beast. The anger of having his prey stolen gradually disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a cold chill that went straight to his head. His hair stood on end. This was a one-sided harvest. Who was it? It was definitely not those stupid students in the opposite building. Judging from the gunshots, the opponent's position was constantly changing, but he couldn't find them at all. Only once did he see a figure flashing by quickly through the scope. That was also the only time. After that, he didn't even see a shadow. He followed the gunshots, but he couldn't find the person. Until the continuous gunshots stopped, he couldn't see a single living mutated beast. Damn it. South of District 79, in the lobby of a hotel on the first floor. Quick, quick, quick. Attention left rear. Leave it to me. Attention southwest. I'm on guard. After a series of concentrated gunshots, there was no longer any threat outside. The few of them heaved a long sigh of relief. Then, their faces lit up. They couldn't wait to check their experience and points. I wonder how many we killed just now. I think I killed at least 2. I'm sure I hit one. I saw quite a few fall just now. Me too. The few of them happily checked their status. Experience, 0 inch. How come I'm also 0? I didn't hit anything after more than 10 shots. They were at a loss. Who killed those outside? After a round of inspection, only 2 of the 10 or so people had a pitiful 10 to 20 points. As for the others, they had earned 0 points and experience points from the previous battle. What the hell is going on? Fiery Bird's Battle of the Century official website. Are there any friends in District 79? I just went offline to the toilet. When I came back online, I found myself surrounded by mutated beast corpses. Can anyone tell me what happened? Same District 79. I don't know either. The number of mutated beasts we've encountered has decreased. In half an hour, we haven't encountered many. Could it be that Fiery Bird is preparing for some big move? I'm panicking. Same District 79. Our side is normal. District 79. Normal. I heard that under normal circumstances, the number of mutated beasts is the same as the number of teams. The larger the team, the more mutated beasts. In any case, we've encountered quite a few. Your side might have fewer people, so you'll encounter fewer. No. District 79, South Street. This side seems to have been swept clean. The number of larger mutated beasts has decreased. The scariest thing is that most of them were killed with one shot. District 79 has an expert. Same District 79 South. It wasn't easy for me to exchange my points for a big sniper. After waiting for half an hour, one finally came. I didn't even have time to take action before it was snatch. Same District 79 South. Same situation. Are there any clubs that have been assigned to our district? Who knows? Same District 79, same. Those who had gone offline in District 79 realized that many others had encountered the same situation as them. Furthermore, they were all in District 79 South. It was rare for them to gather all their energy and prepare to go all out. Suddenly, they realized that there was no place for them to use their skills. In less than an hour, they had been swept clean. Unfortunately, No one knew who had fired the shots. Not even a shadow had been seen. Those who had gone offline for all sorts of reasons were now discussing in the discussion forums. In the Yangju region, the hot topics were dominated by a few well-known esports clubs. Those esports powerhouses had powerful lineups and had their own tactics. The commotion was not small. As long as one was in that district, there was no one who did not know, but not a single person was in District 79. Although there were people discussing District 79, compared to the esports powerhouses that received a lot of attention, the buzz was much lower. But as the number of people participating in the discussion increased, the buzz also rose. Although it could not be compared to those that were hyped up by teams, it would not be squeezed out in a short time. The number of people participating in the discussion increased. It even attracted a lot of curious people from other Yangju districts to join in the fun. What's up with your District 79? Chapter 131. Battle of the Century officially started at the 50th minute. In the Yangju region, the mutated beasts in the southern part of District 79 were decreasing at an alarming rate, and the people on the streets of District 79 only heard gunshots and the mutated beasts that fell in the wake of the gunshots. Not only were the beasts being stolen, what made people even more frantic was that they could not find the person who had fired the shots. They did not even know how many people there were. Even if someone had seen it, it was just a flash of a shadow. There was simply no time to see the person's appearance or other characteristics, and there was no way of knowing who the other party was. It was simply a clean sweep. However, in the entire Yangju region, although the incident in the southern part of District 79 had attracted attention, compared to other matters, it was just a small ripple. All the major entertainment media were scrambling to report on the situation of Yangju's esports clubs, guessing which clubs would appear at the top of the leaderboard. On the globally renowned online gaming community, Rising Dragon, online voting had already begun on all continents, guessing who would leave their name on the leaderboard in the first hour of this once-a-decade event. Fans of the various esports clubs were arguing merrily. Fiery Bird's official website had an experience point ranking. It was a leaderboard for each continent's war zone. There were teams and individual players, and it was refreshed once an hour. This leaderboard was specially watched by esports clubs from every continent. It was publicly recognized as the most authoritative ranking of strength. The higher one's ranking was, the more attention it received, and in terms of commercial value, the higher their value. Yangju's popular magazine, Prairie Fire, had already invited a few retired esports stars to the live broadcast room, waiting for the leaderboard to come out and explain. Countless people paid attention to Fiery Bird's official website. Yangju's 5 big esports clubs dominated the top 5 all year round, and the other esports clubs were also eager to squeeze their way to the top. Almost an hour had passed since the start of the game, and many pairs of eyes were glued to the leaderboard that was about to refresh for the first time. Silver Wing Gaming Department. Department Manager Wayne looked at the 5 people in the gaming room and came out to pour a glass of water to ease the tension. As the head of the department, Wayne had not slept well the past few days. He had dark circles under his eyes, and his face was covered in stubble. This time, he had signed 5 people. 3 were actors and esports players with dual occupations. As for the other 2, one was a university student who had just signed, and the other had been poached from another studio. Apart from that, to look better, he had also collaborated with a private studio and let the 5 signed people form a team with that studio's staff. The team's name was Lurker, and they had yet to be announced to the public. Even the previous news had only given them a mysterious appearance. If one boasted too fiercely before the competition, the slap in the face after the competition would hurt even more. Therefore, apart from the people in the department, no one else knew the name of Silver Wing's gaming department team, their battle prowess, or who their members were. Silver Wing would also invest in games, but compared to Fiery Bird's games, it was just a small investment. Furthermore, most of the time, Silver Wing would choose to collaborate with other gaming companies instead of working alone. Silver Wing was the same as other entertainment companies in the new era. They all had the same idea. Anything that was related to entertainment and could make money, they wanted to get involved. Wayne's gaming department's position in the company could not be compared to the film and music departments, but it was more important than the other small projects. In the past, the virtual projects department was at the bottom of the company, but now that the virtual projects department was getting stronger, their gaming department was faintly being squeezed down. This time, Wayne planned to borrow the momentum of Battle of the Century to see if he could pull the department up again. There was no hope for the individual rankings. After all, they were amateurs and could not compare to those professional, commercial esports clubs. In terms of creating stars, they could not compare. But for the team rankings, Wayne thought that if they could squeeze into the top 50, it would be enough to answer to the higher-ups and make the company look better. They were not a professional esports club, but they were still a famous entertainment company in Yangju. Since they had chosen to have a foot in this field, the results could not be too ugly. Competition in gaming clubs was too intense. It was much more intense than competition in film and music. Silver Wing's focus was still on film and variety shows. As long as they could get by in the gaming department, it would be fine. The top 50 was the target that the higher-ups had set for him. If he could squeeze into the top 30, Wayne would be smiling even in his sleep. However, Wayne did not have high hopes for a good result in the first hour. Everyone in professional esports clubs knew that the first hour was the best time to sweep up points. When many newcomers had not adapted and were still in a daze, it was the best opportunity to sweep up point. By the time those people had recovered, all sorts of strategies would have been released, and various private studios would have started selling equipment. Wanting to sweep up points so easily was basically impossible. Therefore, professional esports clubs would seize the opportunity to sweep up points in the first hour. They would kill all the monsters that they could kill and earn as much experience as they could. After all, this was a commercial esports club, not a hobby team. Every step was carried out in the direction of maximizing profits. Many companies were waiting to use this wave to create stars. Experience points could tell the strength of a person or a team. However, at the moment, a team could only have 20 people at most. If they wanted to expand, they could only increase the overall experience points first. But even if there was a limit to the number of people, there was still the concept of cooperation. Many esports clubs had second and third teams, as well as substitutes, to assist the main team and allow them to obtain more points and rush up the leaderboards. For example, on Silver Wing's side, apart from the 5 people who had signed a contract, there was also a private studio. This was to give these 5 people free points and increase the team's overall points. As long as these 5 people were promoted, Wayne's goal of creating stars would be achieved. All he had to do was wait for this opportunity to stir things up. But at the same time, Wayne would not pass up the opportunity to recruit newcomers. Keep an eye on them. See if there are any seedlings with potential who have not signed a contract. Grab them first. Wayne rubbed his tired eyes and instructed his subordinates. It was not just Silver Wing. Silver Wing's old rivals, Neon Culture and Tongshan True Entertainment, had the same idea. Many professional esports clubs also had people keeping an eye on them. There was never too much talent. Regardless of whether they could be used, they would fish them up first. Even if they had their own mushrooms, they could not let other competitors have them. And some gamers also harbored their own dreams of becoming a star. They planned to amaze the world with a single brilliant feat and soar to the top. So what if they were from a remote mountain range? So what if they had no family background or wealth? As long as they made it onto the leaderboards, there was no need to worry about no one looking for them. Getting rich overnight was not a dream. The road to fame was right in front of them. Battle of the Century started at 55 points. Transcendence, Big Dipper, HWR, Boom, 2S, and other esports clubs were also waiting. 2S Esports Club. Are the announcements ready? Yes. The first, second, third, fourth, and fifth place on the leaderboards had already been written, so they could deal with whatever position they were in. As for those outside the top 5, was that possible? I heard that the team's total points have long broken 10,000. His individual total has already broken 2,000. Hearing this news, everyone relaxed, but they quickly quieted down. They were nervous and filled with anticipation as the seconds ticked by and the leaderboards refreshed. Whether or not they could have a good start on both leaderboards would depend on the leaderboards that would refresh in a while. Battle of the Century started at 59:30. Many people offline stopped whatever they were doing. Fans who had been arguing in full swing also temporarily stopped. They stared at the screen and counted the seconds. 0:59, 580, 59, 591, 00:00. Fiery Bird's official website refreshed automatically. Yangju District Leaderboards, Individual Experience Points Ranking. The leaderboards were arranged in order. After every ID was experience points and team information. 1 Alive After 500 Years, 5267. 3 Silverwing 50 Polarlight 2 Xiehe, 2683. 1 2S3 by Jiang, 2592. 4 Boom 4 Yi Yuan, 2546. 7 Big Dipper 5 Hosei, 2458. 5 HWR 6 Kong Tianhan, 2306. 2 Transcendence. Seeing the leaderboards refreshed for the first time, many esports club offices fell silent. The cheeks of those staring at the screen twitched. Their lips moved twice, but no sound came out. It was as if a large hand was strangling their throats. This is impossible. A 2S analyst's face was pale, and his fingers trembled as he pointed at the screen. As an analyst, he naturally knew the composition of the experience points obtained by his team members. Regardless of whether it was Xiehe or the top players of the other esports clubs, their points were basically swept in the last half an hour. At that time, many of the support teams had accumulated points, and the equipment they had exchanged for had been given to the main team members. There were also people in charge of luring the monsters. Especially in the last 10 minutes of the first hour, they were completely relying on equipment and bullet. This was a true money-making operation to sweep in points. The other teams were in a similar situation, so everyone's points were relatively close. At most, there was a difference of 200 to 300 points. But what the hell was first place? 5,000 points? Was this fucking human? Had the system made a mistake? Looking at the global leaderboards, there were not many in the top 10 who had exceeded 3,000 points. There were only 8. 2 from Huangju, 2 from Rongzhou, and 1 each from Shizhou, Tongju, and Mazhou. Besides these 7, there was the number 1 Yangju team, alive after 500 years. This was the first time this unfamiliar ID had appeared before everyone's eyes. Furthermore, he had forcibly left the number 2 Mazhou gold medal shooter by 1,700 point. Looking at the team, Silverwing 50 Polarlight? Where had this popped out from? Never heard of it before. But looking at the team rankings, Silverwing 50 Polarlight could not be found in the top 100 of the global leaderboards. It was only ranked 28th on the Yangju leaderboards, and its total points was actually only 5350. 4. That also meant that the weirdo in first place had swept 98% of the points alone. Was it possible? Absolutely impossible. It was done. One look and you can tell it was done by a business team, paid people to smash it up. Silverwing 50 Polarlight? A team from Silverwing? Fuck, Silverwing actually silently prepared a big move. Treacherous. Truly treacherous to the extreme. That's why capital is shameless. Are there any experts around? Tell me what methods they used to sweep so many points. I'm not listening. In any case, they definitely used some shameful method. At the same time, Silverwing's gaming department was similarly at a loss. Wayne looked at the refreshed leaderboards and stood there in a daze. An employee beside him carefully leaned over and asked Wayne somewhat stutteringly, "Boss, is this our company's?" Chapter 132. Fans of esports clubs who saw the Yangju leaderboards online were unhappy. Where did Alive After 500 Years come from? How could he trample on the Big Five? No one would believe that the words on the team ID had nothing to do with Silver Wing. The two large words Silver Wing were hard to ignore. Many people scolded Silver Wing for playing tricks, but there were others who did not feel that Silver Wing had done anything wrong. So what if they played tricks? It was a commercial company, and talking about interest was pretentious. All tricks were aimed at maximizing profits. Everyone played tricks, and it all depended on who was better. Song Shihua, the big boss of Tongshan True Entertainment, an old rival of Silver Wing and also one of Yenzhou's three big entertainment companies, smashed the old-era ceramic cup he had painstakingly bought with great difficulty. I knew they weren't that simple. Song Shihua paced back and forth in his office, cursing as he walked. Silver Wing had previously stirred up news about a few gaming stars they had signed, but the hype had not been strong and had been pushed aside by news about professional esports clubs. Song Shihua had not taken it seriously. He had thought that Silver Wing was only capable of sticking their noses in and not making a serious move. But now, Song Shihua felt that he had been duped. That Silver Wing 50 Polarlight team from Alive after 500 years was the real move, wasn't it? They had used other news as a cover before the match, not revealing any truly important information, and then after the match, they had stirred up big news. Did this move look familiar? Too familiar. This was practically a fucking copy of Polarlight's debut move. Speaking of which, Song Shihua had invested heavily in the gaming department this time, secretly signing 3 studios and poaching people from a few not-so-famous esports clubs. He had not disclosed this to the public, and it had all been done in secret. He had planned to stir up news after the leaderboards were released, create a few new stars, and make some money from the gaming industry. These people did not disappoint. The highest individual ranking was 27th, and the team ranking was even higher at 21st, just a little bit more than the top 20. The difference between the top and bottom 3 was only a single digit. This ranking was considered pretty good. At least in the past, it would have been better than Silver Wing and Neon Culture. But now what use was that? Compared to the 5,000 points of the overall leaderboard leader, it was really not enough. If word got out, he would be a laughingstock. Song Shihua was so angry that he was trembling. He called the people in charge of the gaming department over and gave them a good scolding. We are both in the gaming department, but how did Wayne from Silver Wing's gaming department manage to poach such amazing people? How did he manage to pull off such a high score without anyone knowing? What about you guys? A bunch of trash. Did I invest so much money for you to eat, drink and have fun? Thank you all. There were many people who thought the same as Song Shihua. The amount of information contained in that ostentatious Silver Wing 50 Polarlight was too much. Hey, Aurora? Could this be related to Silver Wing's Polar Light Project team? Maybe it's just to increase the popularity of Silver Wing's virtual idol, Polar Light, so they used a professional team and some unknown methods to create the ID alive after 500 years. Silver Wing is making another star. They want to create a super ID. Come to think of it, they didn't even waste the team name to advertise Polar Light. Without a doubt, as a commercial company, Silver Wing's move is really beautiful. I thought those few small fries that Silver Wing pushed out a few days ago were the main force. How could I have been so naive to believe it? Silver Wing 50 Polarlight, this team name is very obvious. It refers to Polar Light, who was born on the 50th floor of Silver Wing's Virtual Projects department. Indeed, there were rumors last month that virtual idol endorsement restrictions would be lifted in the future. Many people thought that Silver Wing's Polar Light had suffered a huge loss this time. Once Fiery Bird lifted the restrictions on virtual idols, Polar Light's endorsement deal would be gone. Who would have thought that Silver Wing would make a move now? That team name is clearly telling everyone that they will not give up on the endorsement deal. Amazing. I just don't know where they found that godly person who can get 5,000 points in an hour. To be able to create the conditions for Polar Light to secure the endorsement deal and operate a super ID to achieve the goal of creating a star, I'm impressed. The onlookers, who felt that they had dug out the truth, fought to express their opinions. The Polar Light Project team members, who had been bombarded with insults and analyzed in depth. What happened? Zhu Wen had a blank look on his face. Am I still asleep? Rodney was in a trance. Fu Yingtian stared at the screen. What they say makes so much sense, but why can't I understand it? Are they talking about us? Doesn't our company have a virtual projects department? Zhongyu flipped through the company's various departments. As he spoke, Zhu Wen and the others' communicators started ringing like crazy. There were calls from family and friends, and there were calls from other Silver Wing employees, but none of them dared to pick up. In the Virtual Projects Department's internal chat group, Zhu Zhen, who was the second-in-command and had not participated in the game, relayed Duan Qianzhi's orders. From now on, all employees in the Virtual Projects Department were to go into lockdown mode and were not to divulge any information related to the game. As for when the lockdown would be lifted, they would wait for further notice. Silver Wing's Gaming Department. Wayne looked at the coordinates of Silverwing 50 Polar Light, and his expression fluctuated. Then he stood up abruptly. Because the movement was too large, his chair and the floor made a sharp creaking sound, making his teeth ache. Wayne decided to personally go to the 50th floor and ask. He got up and left in quick steps. When he reached the door, he turned his head and scanned the people in the gaming department. In a stern voice, he said, "All of you keep your mouths shut. If you find out who leaked the information, you will be severely punished." When Wayne reached the 50th floor, the door to Silverwing's 50th floor was tightly shut. Many people were loitering outside, probably wanting to know what was going on. Although it was the weekend, it was common for entertainment companies to work overtime on weekends, so there were still many people staying at the office. But these people were quickly chased away by the various department heads. Wayne had just stepped out of the elevator when he received a call from Duan Qianzhi. "Director Duan, yes, I just arrived at the entrance of the Virtual Projects Department." "Okay, I understand, okay." When Wayne walked into the Virtual Projects Department, he saw Zhu Zhen, the deputy manager Duan Qianzhi had sent directly, waiting there. Zhu Wen and the others were all sitting in the hall. Wayne was more familiar with Zhu Wen, an old employee. He also knew that Zhu Zhen probably did not know about this matter, so he asked Zhu Wen directly. "That Silverwing 50 Polar Light team is yours?" "Yes, I was the one who came up with the team name," Zhu Wen said softly. "At that time, when we wanted to name the team, Boss did not say anything, so I did it for him. Thinking that since it was a joint operation of our Virtual Projects Department, we directly used the same name as the coordinates, Silverwing, Company, 50th, Floor, Polar Light, all core employees of the project team." Wayne looked at Zhu Wei, his face alternating between green, white, and red. His mouth opened and closed a few times, but he couldn't say anything. After taking a deep breath, he said, You guys are stirring up trouble again. Who is alive after 500 years? Wayne asked anxiously. "That is our boss. Fang Zhao." Wayne's expression was very obvious. What he meant was, "Are you trying to scare me?" Zhu Wen also had a look of speechlessness. "It's true. It's even more true than that 5,000 points." Wayne looked at the others. Rodney and the others also nodded their heads in unison. Just someone like Fang Zhao. Just someone like Fang Zhao. Wayne could not say anything else. He really could not tell that Fang Zhao had this ability. Wasn't he a composer? Oh, it seemed like he was also a virtual projects producer. But if he could play games to this extent, how could he be a virtual projects producer? Zhu Yu, who was sitting at the side, glanced at the shocked Wayne and lowered his eyes in silence. "Where is your boss?" Wayne asked. "Boss is at home. He did not come to the office. Today is the weekend. I called him, but he did not pick up. Maybe boss is still online." "Then why did you guys go offline?" Wayne asked the question in his heart. The corners of Zhu Wen's mouth twitched. "Boss Wayne, you might not believe it, but I was bitten off by a fish worth 0.1 experience points in less than 2 minutes after I went online." "Then why didn't you go online?" "Boss won't let me." I faced the wall and reflected. What about the others? Wayne did not give up. The others also faced the wall and reflected. "Wayne, That is to say, you all do not know how Fang Zhao got those 5,000 points. Wayne was so agitated that his voice reached a high pitch. Pang Pusong thought to himself, with this voice, it would be a pity not to sing. Facing Wayne's question, Zhu Wen and the others' replies were uniform nods. 2S Esports Club, Gaming Room. He came out of the gaming cabin drenched in sweat. He had expended too much energy in the game. As the captain, he had also shouldered a lot of pressure, especially in the last 10 minutes. The high intensity of the battle and the high level of concentration had undoubtedly taken a huge toll on his stamina. When he came out, his clothes were completely drenched in sweat. After exiting the cabin, he did not bother to wipe his sweat. He waved away the cup his assistant had handed him and asked, "How's the ranking?" The previously noisy gaming room quietened down in an instant. The assistant and the team doctor who had rushed over did not know what to say. Everyone had a complicated expression on their faces. Seeing everyone's reaction, his heart skipped a beat. He picked up the bracelet beside him and opened the saved page. Before going offline, he felt that his performance in the past hour was not bad. He had performed a little better than usual. Perhaps he could take first place this time. Even if he was not first, second, third, or even fifth place was not that hard to accept. But everyone's reaction made he feel apprehensive. Could it be that he did not even make it into the top 5? And when he saw the ranking and points on the leaderboard, his hand trembled, and his personal terminal wristband, which was worth millions, dropped to the ground. How is this possible? How is this possible? His chief assistant shook his head helplessly. It is said that it is a cooperative operation between Silver Wing's gaming department and Virtual Projects department. As for who that ID is, we still do not know. Silver Wing has disclosed very little information. Boss guesses that Silver Wing wants to create a star this time. He still found it hard to accept. That is impossible. He did not think much of second place, but the difference in points was too great. If the other party only had a little over 3,000 points, he would have accepted it. 5,000 points. Chapter 133. Regardless of what others thought, the game would not stop. The leaderboards had just been refreshed for the first time. This battle had just begun. He took a short break. After the team doctor checked on him and replenished his energy, he entered the gaming capsule again. He did not believe that the other party could still score so high in the second hour. Even if an operations team worked together to create a super ID, there had to be a time limit, right? Even if it was just gaming, people would get tired. There was a limit to their energy. Did other teams have the resources of the Big Five? Silver Wing Tower 50th floor. Wayne did not leave. Instead, he stayed on guard. Why did he say that the Virtual Projects department was stirring up trouble again? Wayne was, of course, happy that an expert had appeared. So much so that when he saw the ranking and the word Silver Wing, he was also excited and moved. However, for a commercial entertainment company, any major matters would only start after the planning team had made the necessary arrangements. Over the past year, Silver Wing had only been passive in 2 matters. The first was the sudden emergence of Polar Light last year. Back then, Polar Light's debut had caught many of Silver Wing's departments off guard. The spokesperson could only smile to the outside world. The other was now. After Fiery Bird's official leaderboards were refreshed for the first time, Silver Wing's spokesperson, Lin Dunn, once again smiled and did not say a word. Facing the questions of the Team Silverwing 50 Polar Light and the mysterious alive after 500 years, Fiery Bird's chief spokesperson, Lin Dunn, once again smiled and did not say a word. As the manager of the gaming department, Wayne was pleasantly surprised, but he also had to consider the company's reputation. The truth could not be made public. If it was made public, it would be a joke. The small celebrities that Silver Wing's gaming department had invested in to promote had not yet been hyped up, but the Virtual Projects department had suddenly fired a salute. Now, Silver Wing's public relations team was busy trying to resolve the problem. As for Wayne, he wanted to continue waiting. He wanted to get first-hand information from Zhu Wen and the others. Right now, only Zhu Wen and the others could contact Fang Zhao. Zhu Wen and the others had already logged back into the game. Fang Zhao had given them an hour to reflect on their actions. The time limit had already passed, and they could not wait to log back in. When they logged back in, they were still in the same warehouse. The corpses of the beasts that Zhuo Yu had shot down before logging off had already disappeared. In the game, the corpses would disappear after a period of time. As a game, it was still mainly for entertainment. The players didn't play the game to be abused. The game was to find the most suitable and appropriate point between reality and the virtual world. It allowed the players to feel the real background and find the fun in the game. The pile of corpses and the rotting smell would not be too strong, so after a while, the corpses of beasts and humans would disappear. This was also the reason why these scenes in the game seemed more empty. In real history, too many creatures had died during the early stages of the period of destruction, and the entire city had been shrouded in the stench of decay. However, the game had avoided these factors. Boss isn't here. Zui looked around. This time, he didn't dare to be careless. He lowered his voice and carefully looked around. There's a message. The boss left it for us, Rodney said. In the game, communication was more convenient. There was also a group communication platform within the same team. Let's move around freely and get used to it. He didn't say where he is. Zhuo Yu asked in the group chat, Boss, where are you now? Do you need backup? Fang Zhao did not reply immediately. Maybe he's busy, Zhuo Yu said. Right, Zhuo Yu, I didn't ask you because Zhu Zhan and Wayne were there. You went offline after us. Do you know what happened to the boss? Zui asked. For Zui, whether it was Zhu Zhan, who had been sent by the higher-ups, or Wayne from the gaming department, they were all outsiders. They could talk about their secrets in private. He wouldn't say too much in front of outsiders. The others also looked at Zhuo Yu suspiciously. Fang Zhao had taken first place on the leaderboards. They were no less shocked than the others. Zhuo Yu didn't know how to explain. All he could say was, his marksmanship is accurate. Zhuo Yu didn't mention the ferocity with which Fang Zhao had swung the metal rod. He was afraid it would scare Zhu Wei and the others. So what do we do now? Zhu Wei was at a loss. Do we go out and kill some monsters? There are probably no big monsters to kill in this area. We can only pick up some small ones, Zhuo Yu said. They had been assigned to an urban area, and the number of mutated beasts there was limited. Don't tell me there aren't even rats. Zhu Wei was puzzled. There should be rats, just a little less. Didn't we learn in secondary school biology class that rats that lived in the source during the period of destruction had a lower chance of contracting diseases and were more resistant to diseases than humans? Vaccines were developed with them. On the other hand, pets that were taken care of had a higher chance of being infected. Then let's search and see what else we can find. Right, the boss has already cleaned up upstairs. Let's go up and take a look. Maybe we can find some useful tools. Zhuo Yu didn't mind. Before Fang Zhao's reply, he would bring these people to adapt. It feels like we're holding them back, Zhu Wei muttered. There's a lot of pressure, Rodney said. This was the first time they had encountered such a situation. They had originally planned to protect Fang Zhao in the game, but now the tables had turned. They were holding the team back. Zhuo Yu was expressionless. He thought to himself, you guys are under a lot of pressure. Are you as stressed as me? You guys are only under a lot of pressure in the game. I'm under a lot of pressure in the game and in real life. Battle of the century began. 2:00. The leaderboards refreshed for the second time. Wayne had been waiting in front of the screen for a long time. After the second refresh, the two leaderboards in the Yangzhou region did not change much. The team leaderboards were still dominated by the big 5 esports clubs, and the individual leaderboards did not change either. However, the gap between first and second place had widened. In first place, Alive After 500 Years had 15377. 6 experience points. In second place, Xie He had 6018. 3 experience points. In second place, the professional shooter from Marjo, Marcier, had 81.95. 5 points. What an unbelievable difference. When Wayne saw the leaderboards, he could not help but take a deep breath. Ecstasy, excitement, and a rare feeling of not knowing what to do dominated his thoughts. For a moment, he remained staring at the screen. Only his fists, which were clenched tightly under the table, were trembling. He knew that their gaming department's opportunity had come. Meanwhile, the internet had already exploded. After the second refresh, many people were scared silly. Previously, they had doubted how he had managed to get 5,000 points in an hour, but in the second hour, he had managed to get 10,000 points. Even if that Marjo player had managed to get 4,000 points in the second hour after upgrading his equipment, it was still nothing compared to alive after 500 years. Is this really something a human can do? 15,000 points. 10,000 in an hour. How did he get it? Did he go crazy? Which district in Yangju is this? I want to go watch. There were also people who directly spent money to purchase props in the Yangju district. Everyone in the district could hear and see the message they had sent. Who knows which district alive after 500 years is in? $1,000 reward. Private message sent. There was more than one such message. It could have been some tycoon, some entertainment media, or some esports club using a sock puppet to fish for information. But no matter how much these people clamored, no one could confirm which district alive after 500 years was in. The public information on the Silverwing 50 Polarlight team was limited. Other than the team name, nothing else could be seen. The districts were randomly assigned after logging in and entering the game. Zhu Wen and the others did not contact anyone else. After being bitten and logged off, he was too embarrassed to tell his friends. Besides, most of the people he knew were online and enjoying themselves. It was rare for someone to be bitten by a fish not long after coming online. The other members of the team were in the same situation. At that time, they had not had much contact with their classmates and friends, which had led to the current situation. No one knew who the members of the Silverwing 50 Polarlight team were or which district they were in. The analysts listed their guesses. A single person taking so many points could not have caused a small commotion. Someone would definitely have noticed, but there were 100 smaller districts under the Yangju district, and there were quite a few that had caused a big commotion. Excluding the districts where the few big esports clubs were located, there were quite a few that looked like it. After filtering through them one by one, 7 districts were finally whittled down. Among these 7 districts, some had professional esports clubs, but who could be sure that Silverwing had not collaborated with those clubs or private teams? District 79 was also a suspect. District 79 was gloomy. Their district had a crazed kill-snatching demon, or maybe it was a kill-snatching team. It was still unclear who the other party was. After all, they could not see the ID, and it was also unclear how many members the other party had. Battle of the Century began at 4:00. District 79 South was swept. Battle of the Century began at 8:00. District 79 East was swept. Battle of the Century began at 12:00. District 79 West was swept. Perhaps it was because many people had already adapted to the game and found ways to upgrade their equipment. Some of the wealthier players bought equipment from teams that specialized in selling in-game equipment. This way, the players at the top of the leaderboard would be able to obtain fewer points by killing monsters. This was because everyone's standards had risen. But no matter what, alive after 500 years, who had dominated the global leaderboards for 12 consecutive hours, had gained 7,000 to 10,000 points every time the leaderboards refreshed. Not only had he not been caught up by the others, but he had also left them further and further behind. Gamers everywhere were dissatisfied. I don't believe it. There must be a problem somewhere. Cheetah already filed a complaint, strongly requesting a thorough investigation. Chapter 134. Fiery Bird's nothing out of the ordinary was to tell everyone that there were no cheats and no substitute training. It was really Fiery Bird alone who had obtained so many points. What was different from everyone else's focus was on Yenzhou's District 79. The people of District 79 were on the verge of tears. It was not that all the mutated creatures had been swept clean, but wherever the gunshots had swept through, whether it was on the streets or in open buildings, it was as if they had been sifted through. The larger ones, the more obvious ones, had all been sifted away. There were not many infected ones to be seen. On the streets, the larger mutated beasts that could be seen running were pitifully few. It was as if they had really been cleaned up by a cleaner. Some people lying in ambush waiting to snipe their prey did not even get a single one in half an hour. Players who had the financial resources but lacked the skills understood their limits. When they first logged into the game, they did not wander around. They just familiarized themselves with the game and practiced their controls. When it was about time, they went offline to look for those studios or teams that sold equipment. They did not have the ability to kill monsters for points and experience. Without points, they could not exchange for more items, so they could only look for people to buy from. In 12 hours, a lot had happened in half a day. Equipment sellers used the points earned by their teams to exchange for equipment or guns that they had picked up while hunting monsters. These could be sold to others at a fixed price. After arranging a location, they could deliver the equipment. Alternatively, the buyer could give them in-game coordinates, and they could go deliver the equipment. Teams that specialized in strategy also gave out secret manuals that had been compiled in half a day. But when these players bought the equipment, finished reading the strategy, and were fully equipped for battle, they realized that the surroundings were much emptier when they went online. There was not a single monster to be seen. What do you expect me to fight? Who knew when the next wave of monsters would come? Small monsters. Small monsters were beneath their notice. This stifling feeling of possessing exceptional martial arts but not having a place to use them was rather unbearable. Yangzhou Qian City, in the chief editor's office of the popular Prairie Fire. Qian Cheng looked at his subordinate's report and pondered for a while. Is it District 79? I don't know. There is no way to confirm. The other districts have not clearly stated that it is either. The employee who had come over to report on the progress of the investigation replied. Qian Cheng sat in his office chair. Although there was no obvious change in his expression, the fingers that were tapping on the table had become much more forceful. A Prairie Fire employee said angrily, I asked for their team name and they did not say it directly. They are so secretive. He's just freeloading. They were very angry. They had already sent people to the few suspicious regions that they had screened out. They had also asked a few clubs, but some of the clubs or teams in those regions had directly answered no, while some were vague and did not make a clear statement. After the matter was over, they immediately stirred up the news to attract attention. They did not like these methods, but they could not rule out the possibility that those people were the culprits. Previously, Qian Cheng had thought that as long as he kept an eye on a team with only one person killing crazily, or if everyone else in the team was creating hunting conditions for one person, then that would definitely be the target they were looking for. But very quickly, the points of the other members of the Silverwing 50 Polarlight team also started to rise, so it was really hard to make a judgment now. 12 hours passed. The number 1 spot on the global solo leaderboard for Battle of the Century had not changed at all. There were not many changes in the top 10 either. However, the number of points was still increasing. As for Fang Zhao, who was the center of everyone's heated discussion, he simply didn't care about the reactions of others. He blocked the regional messages and didn't check the team messages. He kept shooting, reloading, shooting, reloading, shooting. He tossed aside all other emotions. He just wanted to properly vent in this game. When he felt that it was about time, Fang Zhao stopped and checked the team messages. There was nothing too important, so he went offline after reporting that he was safe. Fang Zhao came out of the game console drenched in sweat. His clothes were already drenched. Even without twisting his body, he could see droplets of sweat dripping from his clothes. Both his mind and body seemed rather exhausted. Fang Zhao didn't rest once an hour or once every few hours like other people thought he would. He had hunted for 12 hours straight, and he hadn't stopped to rest at all in between. This was a thorough venting of his anger. He was obviously already very tired, but there was a peculiar glow in the depths of his eyes. Refreshing. Relaxing. That feeling was like a heavy downpour after a persistent grey haze. It was incomparably refreshing. Fang Zhao took a deep breath. This was the most relaxing moment since his rebirth. He didn't need to rely on the background music in his head to adjust it, and he didn't need to deliberately suppress it. That heavy and oppressive feeling had dissipated quite a bit, and he truly felt relaxed from the inside out. Of course, other than the feeling of exhaustion, there was also the feeling of hunger. If it wasn't for the fact that this body's constitution had been greatly enhanced, any other person would have long since fainted from exhaustion or hunger. In Yenzhou's time zone, it was already past 6 in the evening. Fang Zhao drank a high-energy beverage and took a shower. After decompressing the compressed food he had stored, he enjoyed his dinner while checking the messages on his communications device. There were close to 100 calls on his communication device, giving Fang Zhao a fright. He thought that something big had happened, but after reading the messages, he understood the reason. However, he hadn't paid attention to the leaderboards previously. To be honest, from his point of view, it really wasn't a big deal, so he hadn't even thought about the rankings beforehand. At that time, he had only wanted to vent the vicious feelings he had suppressed in his heart for a long time and toss aside all other emotions. He hadn't expected that it would lead to the current situation. First place in the entire leaderboard. As he was looking at it, there was a caller ID on his communication device. It wasn't Duan Chenji, but Gaming Department Manager Wayne. Wayne had been waiting since the morning for Fang Zhao to go offline. Because Fang Zhao hadn't gone offline all this time, Silver Wing didn't know what was going on and hadn't communicated with Fang Zhao. They also didn't dare release any news, so to outsiders, it seemed like Silver Wing was probably planning something big. Even some veteran entertainment industry analysts shook their heads helplessly. I don't understand, and I can't guess what exactly Silver Wing is up to. Fang Zhao, you finally went offline. Wayne's tone was rather agitated. When he got agitated, he unconsciously raised his voice at the end of his sentence. Fang Zhao held the communication device a little further away before replying, "Yeah, what's up? Do you know that you are now number 1 on the overall leaderboards? I just found out." Wayne's hearing was very good. He could tell that Fang Zhao's tone was relaxed and that he was probably in a good mood. He even thought that Fang Zhao was happy because he was number 1 on the overall leaderboards. "Then, what are your plans after this?" Wayne asked carefully. "Nothing much." Fang Zhao's motive for logging into the game was just to vent the vicious feelings he had been suppressing for a long time. Now that his goal had been achieved, everything else didn't matter. How he played next depended on his mood. Wayne pumped his fist twice and steadied his tone before saying, "Are you interested in collaborating?" Wayne told Fang Zhao his plans. He wanted to use the company's resources to prop Fang Zhao up and forge him into a superstar in the gaming world. As long as Fang Zhao agreed, their gaming department was going to rise. Wayne could already see a bright future ahead. "Not interested," Fang Zhao replied. "Don't be so quick to reject. A collaboration would benefit everyone. How about this? You have been gaming for so long and must be tired. Why don't you rest first and consider my proposal?" He is that mysterious kill-stealing demon who swept through District 79's east, west, and west sides. The person who had posted the post was a university student who had just bought equipment with a few classmates. They had bought quite a lot of bullets and guns and had planned to have a good time. After seeing the situation in District 79's east, west, and west sides, he had posted the post. He had not expected that his post would cause this god to come out. It had appeared. District 79. The media was like a cat that had smelled blood. They rushed over to District 79. Those who had not been randomly assigned to District 79 for the first time bought District 79 numbers. District 79's professional account selling team had not expected business to be so good on the first day. However, the people who rushed to District 79 that night did not manage to find their target. Instead, the sound of gunfire could be heard in District 78's east, which bordered District 79's west side. Chapter 135. Those who had been ordered to stand guard in District 79 were trembling in fear. Gaming was not their strong suit. Glib talking, sneakily taking pictures, and blocking people were their life's pursuit. Thus, after logging in to District 79, they found a place to hole up. They were not here to kill monsters, but to stand guard. Someone from the same company was contacting his accomplice. Is there a situation on your side? No, where I'm at, there are a few players fighting a monster that popped out of nowhere. I'm wondering if I can take advantage of the situation. Maybe I can earn some points. Don't even think about it. With your shooting skills, don't take the risk. Someone on my side also wanted to take advantage of the situation and lost 3 lives in less than 5 minutes. He went offline to get a scolding. I reckon his salary will be docked. Then I'll just wait. This game is too scary. I'm a little scared, a reporter who rarely played games said. He had been pulled over at the last minute as reinforcements. In the past, he had reported on food and culture, and his style was artistic and fresh. Today, the company's gaming and entertainment section was lacking people, and he happened to have the time, so he had been temporarily transferred over to stand guard. He wanted to see if he could wait for that mysterious alive after 500 years. He heard that if he was lucky enough to stand guard, he would get a raise. The mission sounded simple, so he accepted it. Unexpectedly, when he logged into the game and saw those hardcore period of destruction monsters, he almost screamed. Even now, his legs were still wobbly. That's because you're timid. You'll get used to it after playing so many games. The sky, it's already dark. Doesn't that alive after 500 years sleep? Have you ever seen a gamer sleep so early? Wait here. He definitely won't go offline so early. At most, he'll go back online after resting for a while. Don't worry about anything else. Just listen for the gunshots. Will something come out at night? I've never used a gun before. I didn't come into contact with firearms during my military service. No problem. Just hole up in a safe place and close the doors and windows. Don't go out and don't make any noise. It'll be fine. After 500 years had been exposed, every corner of District 79 was filled with media spies. Some were news reporters, others were paid players. Other types of mutated beasts also came out at night, but it was too dark. Players with night vision goggles fared better, but those without such equipment often died before they could see anything clearly. Reporters from various media outlets guarded a safe place, not daring to go out. They just pricked up their ears to see if there were any gunshots like the ones mentioned. However, they did not hear the gunshots. Instead, they heard strange beast roars and human screams. The stimulation from their nerves sent chills down their spines. It was much more difficult at night. If one was not careful, they could lose their life. Hence, many players logged off. Compared to the day, the number of players at night was much smaller. However, it was not as if there were none. Some people liked this kind of more exciting environment. In different time zones around the world, when it was daytime in some continents, it would also be daytime in the region of the game. As a result, some of the players who were originally at the bottom of the rankings would take advantage of the daytime to sweep up points, and their rankings would continue to rise. However, there were not many changes to the top 10. As many people knew, even if the players in their time zones were already at night and went offline because they were not used to the dark environment, they did not go to sleep. Instead, they paid attention to game-related news. Some people were busy buying equipment, others were busy memorizing strategy guides, waiting to fight the next day. There were also some people reading gossip news. Fuck. Why is he still sweeping points? That alive after 500 years is online again. I just asked my cousin's classmates, Yangju relatives and neighbors. There seems to be no movement in District 79. Nonsense. Of course there is no movement in District 79. He has gone to District 78. Indeed, very soon, a piece of news appeared with a screenshot of the district's internal news. It was posted by people from District 78 in-game. District 78 East has been swept. Based on the gunshots, it seems like alive after 500 years has appeared. Why is he in our district? Is he bullying our District 78 for not having any experts? Why doesn't he go to District 80? Someone from District 80 immediately replied, "Our District 80 has many people and few monsters, and the roads are not easy to traverse." Really, God, please don't come. In Yangju, only 100 districts were displayed on the map, and the situation of each district was known. Because the names of many places during the period of destruction were blurred, in the game, the districts were divided into districts, and the names of the districts were given the district codes. District 79, District 78, and District 80 were geographically adjacent to each other on the map. After a while, the people guarding District 79 received instructions from their respective bosses. Withdraw first. Are we not guarding tonight? A reporter guarding District 79 asked his companions. Not guarding tonight. He has already gone to District 78. What's the point of guarding? Then wouldn't we have been guarding for a few hours? Who has a District 78 number? Let's go over there and take a look. The reporters at District 79 withdrew one after another after receiving the order. Some went to buy a District 78 number. They did not dare to go from District 79 to District 78 alone. The dangers they might encounter along the way were enough to kill them 100 times over. Their profession was that of a reporter, not a gamer. The people selling numbers and equipment in District 78 had originally gone offline to rest, but when they heard that alive after 500 years had come to their District 78, they immediately woke up. They were not panicking but excited. This meant that more people would come to District 78, and the price of their equipment would increase. Profited. Just like before, the number of reporters camping in District 78 had increased. Some of them were even hired by the media from other continents to camp there. When they saw that the person on the ranking list was still active at night, they became curious and thought that they might be able to get some big news at night. However, just as these people rushed to District 78 to camp, Fang Zhao went offline. The nighttime environment consumed more mental and physical strength than in the day. A little carelessness could easily lead to injury or even death. Furthermore, he had been playing for a long time in the day, and he had only rested for lunch in the afternoon. Now, after another 5 hours, he was too tired. After taking a shower, eating something, and flipping through the news, Fang Zhao lay down on his bed and fell asleep. This was probably the first quality sleep he had had since his reincarnation, and he fell asleep easily. However, the reporters stationed at District 78 continued to hole up in a dark corner, listening to the roars of beasts outside and trembling in fear until they received instructions from above to evacuate. This night was undoubtedly not peaceful. Gamers were excitedly discussing their gains from the first day, sharing their experiences and interesting anecdotes. Fans were busy following the stars of various esports clubs, and the media was especially active. This year, Yangju had produced an awesome person, not from the Big Five but from the entertainment company Silver Wing. As for who alive after 500 years really was, everyone had their own guesses, but it did not matter. No matter who it was enough for them to hype up the news. The next day, Zhuoyu came to pick Fang Zhao up early in the morning. As Fang Zhao's chauffeur and bodyguard, he had to fulfill his duties. He felt that he could only be used as a chauffeur. If he did not perform well, who knew when he would be fired? Zhuoyu really liked this job. There was not much to do, and the pay was high. It was just that he felt a little pressured. His boss was more capable than he was, and he always felt a little guilty about taking the money. Meeting Fang Zhao again, Zhuoyu had mixed feelings. His previous sense of superiority was nowhere to be found, and he was not as casual and playful when facing Fang Zhao. Like the majority of his fellow bodyguards, he was respectful. He was also curious about how Fang Zhao had scored so many points, but Fang Zhao would not say, so he could not force him. In any case, he would definitely find out in the future. He did not recognize the other two. Fang Zhao guessed that they had signed a separate contract with the gaming department. Just as he was about to ask them what they were doing there, he saw all 5 of them simultaneously look over. 5 pairs of eyes looked as if they had suddenly seen shining gold. Then, as if they had been trained, they bowed toward Fang Zhao. "Greetings, boss." Fang Zhao. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.